The moment Nathan Cole walked into that upscale cafe, he saw her sitting by the rain-streaked window. Evelyn Drake, the billion-dollar CEO whose face dominated every business magazine in Denver. His stomach dropped. This wasn't just some blind date. This was his old college friend's ex-wife. The same friend who'd built an empire on revenge. The same woman the entire city called untouchable. She looked up, recognized him instantly, and something passed between them that neither could name. By morning, both their lives would be burning. If you want to see how far a single night can destroy everything, or save it, stay until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The rain had been falling for 3 days straight. Nathan Cole stood in the narrow hallway of his apartment, staring at his phone like it might explode. The text from Marcus, his loudmouth coworker who never knew when to quit, sat there blinking at him. Dude, tonight, 7 p.m., Riverside Cafe, she's perfect for you, don't bail. Nathan wanted to bail. He'd wanted to bail for the past 6 hours, ever since Marcus cornered him at the construction site during lunch, grinning like he'd just won the lottery. I'm telling you, man, Marcus had said, wiping grease off his hands with a rag that looked older than Nathan's truck. She's smart, she's got her life together, and she actually thinks you're interesting. When's the last time that happened? Nathan hadn't answered. The truth was too pathetic to say out loud. Never. Not since Claire left 4 years ago, taking half his heart and all his faith in people with her. Now he was 32, raising a 7-year-old alone, working 60-hour weeks just to keep the lights on and his son fed. Dating wasn't even on the list anymore. It sat somewhere below learn to cook something that isn't spaghetti and fix the bathroom sink that's been leaking since March. But Marcus wouldn't let it go. But Marcus, one drink, he'd said. That's all. If it sucks, you leave. But you gotta try, man. You're turning into a ghost. So here Nathan stood, dressed in the only button-down shirt he owned that didn't have paint stains on it, feeling like an idiot. His son Jamie sat on the couch in his dinosaur pajamas, watching cartoons with the volume too loud. You look weird, Jamie said without looking up. Thanks, buddy. Are you going on a date? Nathan hesitated. Something like that. Is she nice? I don't know yet. Jamie finally looked at him, his small face serious in that way kids got when they were trying to figure out if adults were lying. Are you going to marry her? Listen, Nathan laughed despite himself. Let's get through dinner first. Okay. Jamie turned back to the TV. Don't be weird. I'll try. Nathan grabbed his jacket, kissed the top of Jamie's head, and told Mrs. Alvarez, the neighbor who babysat twice a week, that he'd be back by 9. Then he stepped out into the rain and immediately regretted everything. Riverside Cafe sat in the part of downtown Denver where people wore clothes that cost more than Nathan's monthly rent. The kind of place with low lighting, soft jazz playing through invisible speakers, and waiters who looked like they'd judge you for ordering wrong. Nathan hated it immediately. He stood outside under the awning, rain drumming against the fabric above his head, and considered turning around. Marcus would give him hell for a week, but that was better than sitting through an awkward hour with some stranger who'd take one look at him and realize she'd made a terrible mistake. But then his phone buzzed. She's already inside. Table by the window. Don't make me look bad. Nathan cursed under his breath and pushed through the door. The warmth hit him first. Dry air, expensive coffee, the faint smell of something baking. He scanned the room, looking for someone who might be waiting for a construction worker with calloused hands and a truck that rattled every time it hit 40 miles an hour. And then he saw her. His entire body went still. She sat by the window, rain streaking down the glass behind her, one hand wrapped around a cup of tea she wasn't drinking. She wore a black sweater that looked soft and expensive, her dark hair pulled back in a way that made her look both elegant and exhausted. Nathan knew that face. Everyone in Denver knew that face. Evelyn Drake, CEO of ArcLight Technologies. 30 years old. Forbes cover 3 months ago. The woman who'd built a billion-dollar company from nothing and made half the venture capitalists in the country look like amateurs. And his old college friend's ex-wife. Nathan's brain short-circuited. This had to be a mistake, some cosmic joke. Marcus couldn't possibly have set him up with Evelyn Drake. That didn't make sense. She didn't date construction workers. She didn't date anyone, according to the tabloids. She was too busy running an empire and dodging her ex-husband's attempts to destroy her company. But then she looked up. Their eyes met. And Nathan watched her face shift through the same shock he was feeling. She recognized him too. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Evelyn set down her tea, stood slowly, and walked toward him. Nathan's heart slammed against his ribs. "Nathan Cole," she said quietly. Her voice was exactly how he remembered it, low, steady, the kind of voice that made you listen even when you didn't want to. "Evelyn?" he managed. She stopped a few feet away, studying him with those sharp green eyes that had always unnerved him back in college. Not because they were cold, but because they saw too much. "This is unexpected," she said. "That's one word for it." A faint smile touched her mouth. "Did Marcus set this up?" "Yeah." "He works with you?" "Unfortunately." The smile widened just a little. "He didn't tell me who I'd be meeting, just said it was someone worth my time." "He tell you I'm a single dad living paycheck to paycheck?" "No, but I don't care." Nathan blinked. "You don't care. Should I?" "Most people would." Evelyn tilted her head, and something flickered across her face, something tired and real. "I'm not most people." Nathan didn't know what to say to that. "Look," Evelyn said after a pause, "this is weird. I know that. You know that. We can leave right now and pretend this never happened, or—" She gestured toward the table by the window. "We can sit down and have a drink like two normal people who haven't seen each other in 10 years. Nathan glanced at the door, then back at her. "Why would you want to do that?" he asked. Evelyn's expression softened. "Because I haven't had a normal conversation in 6 months, and you're the first person who's looked at me tonight like I'm just a person." Nathan studied her face, the exhaustion around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders, the way she held herself like she was braced for something to go wrong. He recognized that look. He wore it every day. "All right," he said quietly. "One drink, Bob." Evelyn's smile returned, small and genuine. "One drink." Yasit. They sat by the window, the rain still falling outside, and for the first few minutes neither of them spoke. The waiter came, took their orders, bourbon for Nathan, another tea for Evelyn, and disappeared. "So," Nathan said finally, "this is the part where we pretend we don't know who each other is." Evelyn laughed softly. "Is it working?" "Not even a little." She leaned back in her chair, wrapping both hands around her teacup. "How much do you know?" "About you?" "Just what everyone knows. You built ArcLight. You're on magazine covers. You got divorced last year." "That's the public version. What's the real version?" Evelyn's smile faded. "The real version is messy. Most real things are." She looked at him for a long moment, like she was deciding whether to trust him. "Damien and I got married young," she said quietly. "I was 24. He was older, already connected, already rich. I thought I loved him. I thought he believed in what I was building. He didn't. He believed in owning it." Evelyn's voice went flat. "The day ArcLight went public, he tried to force me out of my own company. Said I was too emotional to lead. Said investors would trust him more." Nathan's jaw tightened. "What'd you do?" "I fought him, took him to court. Won. Barely." She paused. "The divorce happened 6 months later. He still owns 15% of ArcLight. Still sits on the board. Still tries to undermine every decision I make. That's hell." "It is." Evelyn met his eyes. "But I'm still standing." Nathan believed her. The waiter returned with their drinks. Nathan took a slow sip of bourbon, letting the burn settle in his chest. "Your turn?" Evelyn said. "My turn?" "Tell me your messy version." Nathan set down his glass. "Not much to tell. I got married at 25, had a kid at 26. My wife left when Jamie was 3. Why? She said I wasn't enough." Nathan's voice went quiet. "Said she didn't sign up for a life with a guy who worked construction and came home covered in dust every night. She wanted more." "So she left her son?" "She sends money sometimes. Calls on his birthday." Nathan shrugged. "Jamie barely remembers her." Evelyn's expression darkened. "That's not a mother. That's a coward." Nathan didn't argue. They sat in silence for a while, the rain tapping against the window, the cafe humming softly around them. "Can I ask you something?" Evelyn said. "Go ahead." Why'd you agree to this? The blind date. Nathan smiled faintly. Marcus wouldn't shut up, and I figured, I don't know, maybe I'm tired of being alone. Yeah, Evelyn said softly. Me too. Their eyes met again, and something shifted. It wasn't attraction. Not yet. It was recognition. Two people who'd been fighting too long standing in the rain, realizing they didn't have to fight alone anymore. Boshem. The evening stretched longer than either of them planned. One drink turned into two. Two turned into dinner. Dinner turned into dessert neither of them really wanted but ordered anyway because neither of them wanted to leave. Evelyn talked about ArcLight, the pressure, the board meetings, the investors who smiled to her face and plotted behind her back. She talked about the loneliness of being the youngest woman in every room, the one everyone expected to fail. Nathan talked about Jamie, the bedtime stories, the terrible drawings that covered the fridge, the school plays where he was the only dad in a sea of moms. He talked about the weight of raising a kid alone, the fear that he wasn't doing it right. And somewhere in the middle of it all, they started laughing, real laughter, the kind that came from deep in the chest and made you forget, just for a moment, how hard everything was. You're not what I expected, Evelyn said, her second glass of wine half empty. What'd you expect? I don't know, someone shinier? Nathan grinned. Sorry to disappoint. You didn't. Evelyn's smile was soft, almost shy. You're the first person who's talked to me like I'm normal in years. Nathan looked at her, really looked at her, and saw past the CEO, past the magazine covers, past the billion-dollar company. He saw a woman who was tired, who was lonely, who was trying like hell to keep it together, just like him. You are normal, he said quietly. Evelyn's eyes glistened just for a second. No one else thinks so. Then they're idiots. She laughed, a small, broken sound. Maybe. The waiter brought the check. Nathan reached for it, but Evelyn was faster. Don't even think about it, she said. I can pay. I know you can, but I'm paying. Nathan sighed. You're stubborn. You have no idea. They walked out together into the rain that had finally started to ease. The street was slick and shining under the streetlights, the city quiet around them. Evelyn pulled her coat tighter. Thank you for tonight. For what? For treating me like a person. Nathan smiled. You made it easy. They stood there for a moment, neither of them moving. Can I see you again? Evelyn asked. Nathan hesitated. You know what people will say. About us. I don't care what people say. Damien will care. Evelyn's expression hardened. Damien doesn't get to control my life anymore. Nathan studied her face, saw the steel beneath the exhaustion, and made a decision. All right, he said. Let's see where this goes. Evelyn's smile was the brightest thing he'd seen in years. Nathan didn't tell Marcus about the date. He went home, paid Mrs. Alvarez, checked on Jamie, who was asleep on the couch with his dinosaur clutched to his chest, and carried him to bed. Then he sat in the kitchen, staring at his phone. Evelyn had texted him 20 minutes ago. I had a really good time tonight. Thank you. Nathan typed and deleted 3 different responses before settling on, Me too. Let's do it again. Her reply came almost instantly. Tomorrow? Nathan smiled despite himself. Tomorrow. He set down his phone and leaned back in his chair, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. Mom. The second date was quieter. They met at a small diner on the edge of the city, the kind of place where the coffee was strong and the waitresses called you honey without irony. Evelyn wore jeans and a plain sweater, her hair down, no makeup. She looked younger, softer. This place is perfect, she said, sliding into the booth across from him. It's not fancy. I don't want fancy. She smiled. I want real. They ordered pancakes and coffee and talked about everything except work. Evelyn told him about growing up in a small town in Montana where her dad ran a hardware store and her mom taught elementary school. She told him about building her first computer at 14, winning a scholarship to Stanford, feeling like an outsider every day of her life until she started ArcLight. Nathan told her about his dad, a carpenter who'd taught him to swing a hammer before he could ride a bike. He told her about the accident that killed both his parents when he was 19, the way he'd had to grow up overnight, the loneliness that never really went away. You miss them, Evelyn said quietly. Every day. Jamie's lucky to have you. Nathan looked up, surprised. Why? Because you stayed. You didn't run when things got hard. You chose him. Nathan's throat tightened. It wasn't really a choice. It always is. Evelyn's voice was fierce. And you chose right. They sat in silence for a while, the diner warm and loud around them. Can I meet him? Evelyn asked suddenly. Nathan blinked. Jamie? Yeah. You want to meet my kid? Is that weird? I don't know, maybe. Nathan hesitated. Why? Evelyn's expression softened. Because he's part of your life, and I want to know your life. Nathan felt something crack open in his chest. Okay, he said quietly, but if he asks you a million questions, don't say I didn't warn you. Evelyn grinned. I'll be ready. They met at the park the following Saturday. Jamie ran ahead, chasing pigeons, while Nathan and Evelyn walked slowly behind him. He's got your eyes, Evelyn said. Poor kid. She laughed. They're good eyes. Jamie stopped suddenly, turned around, and sprinted back. Dad! Dad! There's a dog! Nathan knelt down. Where? Over there. Can I pet it? Ask the owner first. Jamie nodded seriously, then looked at Evelyn for the first time. Who are you? He asked. I'm Evelyn. Bessian. Are you Dad's girlfriend? Nathan's face went hot. Jamie. It's okay, Evelyn said, smiling. She crouched down to Jamie's level. I'm his friend. Is that okay? Jamie studied her carefully. Do you like dinosaurs? I love dinosaurs. What's your favorite? Triceratops. Jamie's eyes lit up. That's a good one. Mine's T-Rex. Classic choice. Jamie grinned, then ran off again. Nathan exhaled. Sorry about that. Don't be. Evelyn stood, watching Jamie play. He's wonderful. He's a handful. He's happy. That's what matters. Nathan looked at her, standing there in the sunlight, smiling at his son, and felt the last wall around his heart start to crack. The weeks passed faster than Nathan expected. They saw each other whenever they could. Stolen lunches, late-night phone calls, quiet evenings at the park. Evelyn fit into his life in a way that felt natural, easy, like she'd always been there. She brought Jamie books about space and dinosaurs. She asked Nathan about his day and actually listened. She laughed at his terrible jokes and called him out when he was being stubborn. And slowly, carefully, Nathan let himself believe this might actually work. But the world outside their small bubble was watching. The first headline appeared on a Tuesday morning. Nathan was at the construction site, hammering rebar into place, when Marcus jogged over, phone in hand. Dude, Marcus said, breathless. You gotta see this. Nathan frowned. See what? Marcus turned the phone around. The headline read, Evelyn Drake's Mystery Man. Who is Nathan Cole? Below it was a photo, grainy, taken from across the street, of Nathan and Evelyn leaving the diner together. Nathan's stomach dropped. When did this? This morning. It's everywhere. Nathan scrolled through the article, his chest tightening with every word. Sources close to Drake say she's been seeing a local contractor, a single father with no tech industry connections. Friends of her ex-husband, billionaire investor Damian Vale, are reportedly concerned about her judgment. Nathan's jaw clenched. This is bad, Marcus said quietly. Yeah. What are you going to do? Nathan didn't answer. He texted Evelyn. Did you see the news? Her response came immediately. Yes. I'm sorry. This is my fault. It's not your fault. It is. I should have been more careful. Nathan stared at the screen, anger and fear twisting in his gut. We need to talk. I know. Tonight? Yeah. They met at Evelyn's penthouse, a sleek, modern space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Nathan had never been there before. It felt like stepping into another world. Evelyn was pacing when he arrived, her hair messy, her expression tight. I'm sorry, she said immediately. I should have known this would happen. I should have... Evelyn, stop. She looked at him, eyes wide. Nathan crossed the room and took her hands. This isn't your fault. Uh, It is. My life is public. Everything I do gets analyzed and torn apart. I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this. I chose you. Evelyn's breath hitched. Nathan, I don't care what the headlines say. I don't care what people think. Nathan's voice was steady, certain. But I need to know you're okay, that this won't destroy you. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared. Of what? Of Damien, of what he'll do when he finds out. Nathan's jaw tightened. He can't hurt you. He can. Evelyn's voice broke. He's already trying. The board's been pressuring me to step down. Investors are pulling out. He's using every connection he has to destroy me. Then we fight him. How? Together. Evelyn looked at him for a long moment, something shifting in her expression. Then she kissed him. It was desperate and fierce and full of everything they'd been holding back. When they pulled apart, both of them were breathing hard. I don't want to lose you, Evelyn whispered. You won't, Nathan said. But even as he said it, he felt the shadow creeping closer. Damien Vale was coming, and he wouldn't stop until Nathan was gone. Kids. Word count 3,547. Continuing to target range. The storm didn't wait long to break. 3 days after the first headline, Nathan lost his biggest contract. The developer called him personally, voice apologetic but firm. Look, Nathan, I like you. You do good work, but we can't afford the controversy right now. What controversy? You know what I'm talking about. The articles, the attention. Our investors are nervous. Nathan's grip tightened on his phone. This has nothing to do with my work. I know, but it doesn't matter. I'm sorry. The line went dead. Nathan sat in his truck staring at nothing, the weight of it crushing down on him. That contract was supposed to carry him through the next 6 months. Without it, he'd have to scramble for smaller jobs, work longer hours, hope nothing else went wrong. His phone buzzed. Another email. Another cancellation. Then another. By the end of the week, he'd lost 3 contracts. All of them cited budget concerns or shifting priorities. None of them were telling the truth. Marcus found him in the parking lot after work, leaning against his truck, staring at the mountains in the distance. You okay? Marcus asked. No. Marcus was quiet for a moment. This is because of her, isn't it? Nathan didn't answer. Man, I'm sorry. I didn't know this would happen. It's not your fault. Still. Marcus hesitated. Are you gonna keep seeing her? Nathan looked at him. Yeah. Even if it costs you everything. Nathan's voice was steady. Yeah. Marcus shook his head, but he was smiling. You're an idiot. Probably. But you're a loyal idiot. I'll give you that. Nathan didn't tell Evelyn about the contracts right away. She had enough to worry about. Board meetings, investor calls, the constant pressure of keeping Arclight afloat while Damien circled like a shark. But she noticed. They were having dinner at his apartment, takeout Chinese on the couch, while Jamie did homework at the kitchen table when she asked, What's wrong? Nathan looked up. Nothing. Liar. He sighed. I lost some contracts. Evelyn's expression shifted. How many? 3. Because of me. Because of people who don't have the guts to stand up to Damien. Evelyn set down her food, her hands trembling. Nathan, I can't let you lose your business because of me. You're not making me lose anything. They are. It's the same thing. No, it's not. Nathan turned to face her fully. Damien's trying to scare me off. He thinks if he makes my life hard enough, I'll walk away, but I'm not going anywhere. You should. Nathan's chest tightened. What? You should walk away, before this gets worse. Evelyn, I'm serious. Her voice cracked. You have a son, a life. I can't be the reason you lose that. Nathan took her face in his hands, forcing her to look at him. You listen to me, he said quietly. Jamie and I were surviving before I met you. We were getting by. But we weren't living. You made us start living again. You think I'm going to give that up because some rich asshole wants to play games? Ah, Santam Kiski. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. What if he takes more than contracts? What if he goes after Jamie? He won't. You don't know that. Nathan's jaw clenched. Then I'll protect him. I'll protect both of you. You can't fight Damien. He's too powerful. I don't care how powerful he is. I'm not walking away. Evelyn kissed him then, hard, desperate, like she was trying to memorize the moment. When they pulled apart, she whispered, I love you. Nathan's breath caught. I know it's fast, Evelyn said quickly. I know it's crazy, but I can't pretend anymore. I love you. Nathan kissed her forehead, his chest aching. I love you too. From the kitchen table, Jamie looked up from his homework. Are you guys going to get married? He called. Nathan laughed despite everything. Focus on your math, buddy. Okay, but if you do, can we get a dog? Evelyn laughed, tears streaming down her face. Yeah, kid, we can get a dog. Psyched. The charity gala was Evelyn's idea. ArcLight was hosting a fundraiser for local STEM programs, and Evelyn insisted Nathan come. I want you there, she said. I want people to see that I'm not ashamed of us. Nathan didn't want to go. He hated fancy events, hated the stares, hated the way people looked at him like he didn't belong. But Evelyn asked, so he went. He wore the only suit he owned, bought for his father's funeral a decade ago, and tried not to feel completely out of place. Jamie came too, dressed in a tiny button-down shirt that made him look like a miniature businessman. Do I have to talk to people? Jamie asked in the car. Just be polite, Nathan said. What if they're boring? Then smile and nod. Jamie sighed dramatically. This is going to be terrible. But when they walked into the ballroom, chandeliers glittering, music playing, hundreds of people in expensive clothes, Jamie's eyes went wide. Whoa! Nathan smiled despite himself. Yeah, whoa, nice. Evelyn found them almost immediately. She wore a dark green dress that made her look like she'd stepped out of a movie. Her hair swept up, her smile genuine when she saw them. You came, she said. We came, Nathan replied. She kissed him lightly, ignoring the stares around them. You look beautiful, Nathan said quietly. You look uncomfortable. Extremely. Evelyn laughed. Come on, let's get you a drink. The night went better than Nathan expected. People were polite, if curious. A few investors asked him questions about construction. One woman asked if he'd ever considered real estate development. Jamie charmed half the room by asking an astronaut if she'd ever seen aliens. And for a few hours, Nathan let himself believe this might actually work. Then Damian Vale walked in. Nathan saw him across the room, tall, sharp-suited, moving through the crowd like he owned it. Evelyn stiffened beside him. I didn't know he was coming, she said quietly. It's fine. Nathan, it's fine. But it wasn't fine. Damian's eyes found them almost immediately, and the look on his face was pure rage. He crossed the room slowly, deliberately, his smile never wavering. Evelyn, he said smoothly, you look lovely. Damian. His gaze shifted to Nathan. And you must be the contractor. Nathan met his eyes. Nathan Cole. Damian Vale. He extended a hand. Nathan shook it, feeling the controlled strength in the grip. I've heard a lot about you, Damian said. I'm sure you have. Damian's smile widened. Evelyn always did have. Interesting taste. Evelyn's voice went cold. Is there something you need, Damian? Just saying hello. It's a party, isn't it? Then go enjoy it somewhere else. Damian's expression didn't change, but something dark flickered in his eyes. Of course. He looked at Nathan one more time. Good luck, Mr. Cole. You're going to need it. Then he walked away. Nathan's heart was pounding. I'm sorry, Evelyn whispered. Don't be. Well, he's going to make this worse. Nathan pulled her close. Let him try. But an hour later, everything changed. Nathan was talking to one of Evelyn's investors near the bar when he realized Jamie wasn't beside him anymore. His stomach dropped. Jamie? He scanned the room, looking for the small figure in the button-down shirt. Nothing. Jamie! People turned to stare. Evelyn appeared at his side. What's wrong? I can't find Jamie. Her face went pale. When did you last see him? 5 minutes ago. He was right here. They split up, searching the ballroom, the hallways, the bathrooms. Nathan's panic was rising, his chest tight, his vision narrowing. "Jamie!" Evelyn grabbed a security guard, her voice sharp. "We're looking for a 7-year-old boy, brown hair, blue shirt. He was here 10 minutes ago." The guard radioed his team. Nathan kept searching, his heart slamming against his ribs. And then Evelyn found him near the parking garage entrance, staring at something on her phone. "Nathan." "Wolves." He ran over. "What?" She turned the phone toward him. The security footage showed Jamie walking toward the parking garage with a man Nathan didn't recognize, and the timestamp was from 8 minutes ago. Nathan's world stopped. "No." Evelyn's voice was shaking. "Nathan, no, 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 no!" He ran, out of the ballroom, down the hallway, into the parking garage. "Jamie!" His voice echoed off the concrete. Empty cars, silence. No sign of his son. Nathan fell to his knees, the world collapsing around him. And somewhere in the distance, he heard Evelyn calling the police. The police arrived in 14 minutes, but it felt like hours. Nathan stood in the parking garage, surrounded by security guards and hotel staff, his hands shaking so badly he couldn't hold his phone steady. Evelyn was beside him, talking rapidly to a detective, a tired-looking woman in her 40s who took notes while Nathan tried to breathe. "His name is Jamie Cole," Evelyn was saying. "He's 7 years old, brown hair, blue eyes. He was wearing a light blue button-down shirt and black pants." The detective nodded. "And you last saw him when?" 20 minutes ago, Nathan said, his voice hoarse. "He was standing right next to me. I turned around for 2 seconds. It's okay, Mr. Cole. We're going to find him." Nathan wanted to believe her, but the security footage told a different story. They'd pulled up every camera angle from the ballroom and surrounding areas. The timeline was sickeningly clear. Jamie had wandered away from Nathan while he was talking to the investor. A man in a dark suit had approached Jamie near the hallway, spoken to him briefly, then walked with him toward the parking garage. The boy hadn't struggled, hadn't screamed, he'd just followed. "He knew him," Nathan said numbly. "Jamie went with him willingly." The detective frowned. "Do you recognize the man in the footage?" Nathan stared at the frozen image on the screen, a tall figure, face partially obscured by the camera angle. "No." "What about you, Ms. Drake?" Evelyn leaned closer, studying the screen. Her face went white. "That's Marcus Reed," she said quietly. Nathan's head snapped toward her. "What?" "He works for Damien, head of his private security." The detective's pen stopped moving. "Your ex-husband?" "Yes, Maz." Nathan felt the world tilt sideways. "Where is he?" "Mr. Cole?" "Where the hell is Damien?" Evelyn grabbed his arm. "But Nathan, don't!" But Nathan was already moving, shoving past security guards, heading back toward the ballroom. He found Damien near the bar, surrounded by a small group of investors, laughing at something someone had said. Nathan didn't slow down. He grabbed Damien by the shoulder, spun him around, and slammed him against the wall. The room went silent. "Where is he?" Nathan's voice was raw, barely human. Damien's expression didn't change. "I don't know what you're talking about. You took my son. That's a serious accusation." Nathan's fist connected with Damien's jaw before he could think. The investors scattered. Someone screamed. Security guards rushed forward, pulling Nathan back as Damien straightened, wiping blood from his lip. "You're making a mistake," Damien said calmly. "Where's Jamie?" What? I have no idea. But if something's happened to him, maybe you should ask yourself why you brought a child into my world. Nathan lunged again, but the guards held him. The detective appeared, her face grim. "Mr. Cole, I need you to step back. He knows where Jamie is, I understand, but you need to let us handle this." Damien straightened his jacket, his smile cold. "I'm happy to cooperate with the police, of course, but I think we all know what's happening here. A desperate man looking for someone to blame." "You son of a—" "Nathan!" Evelyn's voice cut through the chaos. She was standing a few feet away, her phone pressed to her ear, her face pale. "They found something." Nathan's blood went cold. "What?" She lowered the phone. "Security saw a black SUV leaving the garage 18 minutes ago. No plates." The detective stepped forward. "Did they get a direction?" "North on I-25. Nathan's knees nearly buckled. North meant the mountains, the wilderness. 1,000 places to hide. The detective was already on her radio, issuing alerts, calling for backup. Damien watched it all with that same calm expression, and Nathan realized the truth. This wasn't random. This was planned, and Damien had just declared war. The next 3 hours were a blur of police stations, witness interviews, and search coordination. Nathan sat in a hard plastic chair, answering the same questions over and over while Evelyn paced the hallway outside making phone calls. Did your son have any enemies? He's 7. Any custody disputes? His mother's been gone for 4 years. Have you noticed anyone following you recently? Nathan's jaw clenched. Just ask Damien Vale. The detective sighed. Mr. Cole, I understand you're upset, but we need evidence. You have the footage. We have footage of a man walking with your son, not forcing him, not threatening him. A lawyer would argue Jamie went willingly, because he was tricked. I believe you, but we need proof that connects Mr. Vale to this directly. Nathan wanted to scream. Instead, he stood, grabbed his jacket, and walked out. Evelyn caught him in the hallway. Where are you going? To find my son. Nathan, the police are handling it. The police are sitting around waiting for evidence while Jamie's out there somewhere, scared and alone. You can't just... Yes, I can. Nathan's voice broke. He's my son, Evelyn. I'm not sitting here doing nothing. Evelyn's expression shifted. She pulled out her phone and started typing rapidly. What are you doing? Nathan asked, calling in a favor. What kind of favor, Set? She looked up, her eyes fierce. The kind that doesn't wait for warrants. 20 minutes later, they were in Evelyn's car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Nathan's annual salary, racing north through the city. In the passenger seat, a man named Carter was typing furiously on a laptop balanced on his knees. Carter runs my private security, Evelyn explained as she drove. He used to work for the FBI. Carter didn't look up. I found the SUV. Nathan leaned forward. Where? Traffic cameras picked it up heading toward Evergreen. It stopped transmitting 20 minutes ago. Stopped transmitting? They ditched it or disabled the GPS. Carter's fingers flew across the keyboard. But I'm pulling satellite imagery now. If they switched vehicles, we'll see it. Nathan's hands were shaking. How long? Give me 5 minutes. Evelyn reached over and squeezed Nathan's hand. We're going to find him. Nathan couldn't speak. The city blurred past, lights and buildings giving way to dark highways and mountains silhouetted against the night sky. Carter's laptop beeped. Got it, he said. The SUV stopped at a rest area outside Evergreen. Another vehicle, a white van, arrived 3 minutes later. They transferred something between vehicles. Jamie, Nathan whispered. The van headed west, toward Blackwood Lake. Nathan's stomach dropped. That's the middle of nowhere. Yet. Exactly. Carter zoomed in on the map. There's an old resort out there, been abandoned for 10 years. Perfect place to hide someone. Evelyn's jaw tightened. She pressed the accelerator harder. Nathan pulled out his phone and called the detective. We have a location, he said without preamble. Mr. Cole, you need to let us... Blackwood Lake, old resort. Send backup. He hung up before she could argue. Carter looked at him. You know what you're doing is illegal, right? I don't care. Good. Neither do I. See. The resort appeared out of the darkness like a ghost. Evelyn killed the headlights half a mile out, and they approached slowly, the car barely making a sound on the gravel road. The main building was massive. 3 stories of rotting wood and shattered windows, surrounded by smaller cabins that looked ready to collapse. A single light glowed in one of the ground floor windows. There, Carter said quietly. Evelyn parked behind a line of overgrown trees. They climbed out, the night air cold and sharp. Carter handed Nathan a flashlight. Stay behind me. If anything goes wrong, you run. Understand? Nathan didn't answer. They moved through the darkness, circling wide around the main building. Carter had a gun. Nathan didn't ask where he got it, and moved like someone who'd done this before. As they got closer, Nathan heard voices. 2 men, talking in low tones. Carter held up a hand, signaling them to stop. They crouched behind an old tool shed, close enough now to see inside the lit window. And there, sitting on a worn couch, was Jamie. Nathan's heart nearly stopped. His son looked small and scared, his shirt untucked, his face streaked with dried tears. But he was alive, unhurt. One of the men, tall, wearing the same dark suit from the security footage, stood near the door, checking his phone. The other sat across from Jamie, speaking quietly. Nathan couldn't hear the words, but he saw Jamie shake his head. "Two of them," Carter whispered, "armed. I don't care." Nathan. But Nathan was already moving. He didn't think, didn't plan. He just ran. Straight through the front door. The men spun around, reaching for weapons, but Nathan was faster. He tackled the one near Jamie, driving him into the wall with enough force to crack the plaster. The man's gun clattered across the floor. The second man raised his weapon, but Carter appeared in the doorway, his own gun leveled. "Don't," Carter said calmly. The man hesitated. Behind them, Jamie scrambled off the couch and ran to Nathan. "Dad!" Nathan grabbed his son, pulling him close, his hands shaking. "I've got you. I've got you." Jamie was crying, his small body trembling. "I'm sorry, Dad. He said you sent him. It's okay. You're okay." The man Nathan had tackled groaned, trying to sit up. Nathan's vision went red. He grabbed the man by the collar and slammed him back down. "Who sent you?" The man spat blood. "Go to hell." Nathan hit him, once, twice. "Nathan, stop!" Evelyn's voice cut through the haze. She was standing at the doorway, her phone in her hand. "The police are 2 minutes out. Let them handle it." Nathan's fist hovered in the air, his knuckles bloody. Slowly, he let go. The man collapsed, gasping. Nathan turned back to Jamie, cupping his face in his hands. "Did they hurt you?" Jamie shook his head. "I was scared." "I know, buddy, I know." Sirens wailed in the distance. Carter kept his gun trained on the second man while Evelyn moved to Nathan's side, her hand on his shoulder. "It's over," she said softly. But Nathan knew it wasn't, not even close. Bamak. The police swarmed the resort like ants. Patrol cars, ambulances, forensic teams. The place lit up like midday within minutes. The 2 men were arrested on the spot. One of them, the one Nathan had tackled, started talking almost immediately, trying to cut a deal. Nathan sat in the back of an ambulance while a paramedic checked Jamie for injuries. His son hadn't let go of his hand since they found him. The detective approached, her expression unreadable. "Mr. Cole?" Nathan looked up. "Yeah, Tikiki. The suspect is claiming he was hired through an intermediary, says he never met Mr. Vale directly." Nathan's jaw clenched. "Of course he is. But we did find something interesting." She held up an evidence bag containing a phone. Text messages coordinating the pickup. The number traces back to a burner, but the IP address matches a location we're very familiar with, which is Mr. Vale's private office. Nathan felt a surge of grim satisfaction. "So you can arrest him, Sitz. We're getting a warrant now, but I need you to understand this is going to be a long process. Vale has lawyers, resources. This won't be simple." "I don't care how long it takes." The detective nodded. "Your son's safe. That's what matters." She walked away. Evelyn appeared a moment later, her face drawn. "How is he?" "Physically, he's fine." Nathan looked at Jamie, who was wrapped in a blanket staring at nothing. "But this is going to stay with him." Evelyn knelt down in front of Jamie. "Hey, kiddo." Jamie looked at her with red-rimmed eyes. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "I should have stayed with Dad." "You didn't do anything wrong." "The bad guys did." "Are they going to jail?" "Yes." "Forever?" Evelyn hesitated. "For a very long time." Jamie seemed to accept this. He leaned against Nathan, exhausted. "Can we go home?" he asked quietly. Nathan kissed the top of his head. "Yeah, buddy, we can go home." But going home wasn't the end. The media erupted. By morning, every news outlet in the state was running the story. Tech CEO's boyfriend's son kidnapped in revenge plot. The headlines screamed across phones and televisions, turning Nathan's private nightmare into public spectacle. Reporters camped outside his apartment building. Camera crews followed him to work. Someone leaked Jamie's school photo, and suddenly Nathan's 7-year-old son's face was plastered across social media. Nathan stopped going outside. He called in sick to work, what little work he had left. He pulled Jamie out of school and kept him home, where the curtains stayed drawn and the TV stayed off. Evelyn came by every day, bringing food, sitting quietly with them, not trying to fix what couldn't be fixed. On the third day, she found Nathan in the kitchen, staring at his phone. "What is it?" she asked. Nathan turned the screen toward her. It was a message from an unknown number. "This was just a warning. Walk away while you still can." Evelyn's face went pale. "We need to show this to the police." "What's the point? They can't touch him." "Nathan, he's untouchable." "Evelyn, you said it yourself. He has lawyers, money, connections. The police arrested 2 guys who work for him, but not him. He's sitting in his penthouse right now, laughing at us. So what do you want to do? Run?" Nathan's hands clenched. "I want to protect my son." "You are protecting him. By hiding in my apartment? By keeping him locked inside like a prisoner?" Nathan's voice rose. "This isn't living. Then we fight him." "How?" "I already lost my business. I lost my reputation. I'm 1 step away from losing custody because everyone thinks I'm too unstable to raise Jamie. That's not true, isn't it?" Nathan gestured around the darkened apartment. "Look at us. We're hiding like criminals while Damien walks free." Evelyn was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "What if we had proof?" Nathan looked at her. "What kind of proof?" "The kind that connects Damien directly to the kidnapping. Not through intermediaries, not through burner phones. Him. The police looked at what they could access legally." Evelyn's eyes were hard. "I'm talking about something else." Nathan's pulse quickened. "What are you planning?" "Damien keeps files on everyone, every deal, every connection, every dirty secret. He's paranoid, always has been. Those files are on a private server in his office." "How do you know?" "Because I helped him set it up when we were married." Evelyn's voice was bitter. "He never changed the access protocols. He's too arrogant to think anyone would use them against him." Nathan stared at her. "You want to hack into his office? I want to get evidence that puts him in prison. Or, that's illegal. So is kidnapping." Nathan ran a hand through his hair. "Evelyn, if you get caught, I won't. You could lose everything. Your company, your reputation, I don't care." Evelyn stepped closer, her voice fierce. "He took Jamie. He tried to destroy you. He's been destroying me for years. I'm done playing by rules he never follows." Nathan wanted to argue. But deep down, he knew she was right. The system wasn't going to save them. They had to save themselves. "All right," he said quietly. "What do you need?" "Book." The plan was simple in theory, terrifying in practice. Evelyn would access Damien's office server remotely using the old credentials she still remembered. Carter would run interference, monitoring security feeds and network traffic to make sure they didn't get caught. Nathan would stay with Jamie, ready to run if things went wrong. They set it up in Evelyn's penthouse. Carter at the dining table with 3 laptops, Evelyn on the couch with her own computer. Nathan pacing near the windows. "How long will this take, ma'am?" Nathan asked. "Depends on what we find," Carter said. "Could be 20 minutes, could be hours. And if Damien's security catches you, then we abort and hope his lawyers are too expensive to bother with a hacking charge." Carter didn't look up from his screen. "But let's not think about that." Evelyn's fingers flew across her keyboard. "I'm in." Nathan's heart hammered. "Already?" He really didn't change the passwords, idiot. Evelyn's screen filled with folders and files. "There's a lot here." "Look for anything related to the kidnapping," Carter said. "Communications, financial transfers, anything with dates around the incident." Evelyn navigated through the system, her expression growing darker with every folder she opened. "He's got files on everyone," she murmured. "Investors, board members, politicians." She paused. "Me." Nathan moved closer. "What kind of files?" "Everything. Every deal I've made, every contract I've signed. He's been tracking my movements for months." Her voice shook. "He knew about you before we even met." Nathan's blood ran cold. "What?" Evelyn pulled up a document. It was a background report on Nathan, his work history, his finances, his custody arrangement with Claire. dated 3 weeks before their blind date. He set it up, Evelyn said numbly. The whole thing. He had someone approach Marcus, plant the idea of setting us up. He wanted to see what I'd do. Nathan felt sick. Why? Control. He always needs control. Evelyn's hands were shaking. If the relationship failed, he'd use it to prove I was unstable. If it succeeded, he'd destroy it to prove he still had power over me. Carter looked up. Found something. They crowded around his laptop. It was an email chain, encrypted but now decrypted by Carter's software. The messages were between Damien and someone identified only as MR, Marcus Reed, the head of security. The first email was dated 2 days before Jamie's kidnapping. We need to send a message, make it clean. No permanent damage. Just fear. The response, understood. The boy, perfect. Cole will break, and she'll blame herself. 2 birds. Nathan's vision blurred. There it was. Proof. Direct orders from Damien Vale to kidnap his son. Download everything, Nathan said, his voice barely controlled. Carter was already moving. On it. Evelyn printed the emails, her face pale. Nathan pulled out his phone and called the detective. I have evidence, he said when she answered. Everything you need to arrest Damien Vale. The arrest happened at dawn. Police surrounded Damien's penthouse building, blocking every exit. The detective led a team upstairs while news helicopters circled overhead, broadcasting every moment live. Nathan watched from Evelyn's apartment, Jamie asleep on the couch beside him, as Damien Vale was led out in handcuffs. The man who'd tried to destroy their lives looked smaller somehow, less powerful. Just a criminal in an expensive suit. Evelyn stood next to Nathan, her hand in his. It's really over, she whispered. Nathan wanted to believe her, but he knew the truth. Damien would have lawyers, bail, a trial that could take years. This wasn't over, it was just beginning. The days after the arrest were chaos. Damien's legal team filed motion after motion, arguing the evidence was obtained illegally, that the charges were politically motivated, that their client was innocent. The media devoured every detail. Nathan's face was everywhere. The single father who'd taken on a billionaire. Evelyn was painted as the vengeful ex-wife. Jamie, thankfully, was kept out of most reports. But Nathan still saw comments online, strangers arguing about his parenting, his choices, his worth. He stopped reading. Instead, he focused on Jamie. They went to therapy twice a week, a gentle woman named Dr. Reyes who specialized in childhood trauma. Jamie didn't talk much at first, but slowly he started opening up. I thought I was helping, Jamie said during one session, his voice small. The man said Dad needed me to come with him, that it was a surprise. You were very brave, Dr. Reyes said. And what happened wasn't your fault. Dad got hurt because of me. Nathan knelt down, taking his son's hands. I got hurt because bad people did bad things. Not because of you. Never. Because of you. Jamie's eyes filled with tears. I miss school. I miss my friends. I know, buddy. Can we go back? So Nathan looked at Dr. Reyes, who nodded gently. Yeah, Nathan said. We can go back. Boshams. The first day back at school was harder than Nathan expected. Parents stared, whispered. A few pulled their kids away when Jamie approached, like trauma was contagious. But some surprised him. Marcus's wife, Angela, showed up with homemade cookies and a fierce hug. You tell anyone who gives you trouble to talk to me, she said. Another parent, a dad Nathan barely knew, clapped him on the shoulder. You're a good man. Don't let anyone tell you different. It wasn't much, but it was something. Jamie ran off to join his class, waving once before disappearing inside. Nathan stood there longer than he needed to, watching the door close, feeling the weight of the past week settle on his shoulders. His phone buzzed. It was Evelyn. How'd it go? He's okay. We're okay. Good. I have news. Can you come by tonight? Yeah, what kind of news? The kind we talk about in person. Blessings. Nathan arrived at Evelyn's penthouse that evening to find her surrounded by papers. What's all this? He asked. Legal documents, contracts, settlement offers. Evelyn looked exhausted. Damien's team reached out. They want to make a deal. Nathan's jaw tightened. What kind of deal? Well, he'll plead guilty to reduced charges, conspiracy instead of kidnapping. He'll serve 5 years instead of 20, and in exchange, he gives up his shares in Arclight and agrees to a permanent restraining order. 5 years. It's not enough, I know, but the prosecutor thinks it's the best we'll get. A trial could take years, and there's no guarantee we'd win. Nathan sank into a chair. So he gets away with it. He gets 5 years in prison and loses his company. That's not nothing. It's not justice. No, Evelyn said quietly. It's not. They sat in silence. Finally, Nathan asked, "What do you want to do?" Evelyn looked at the papers, then at him. "I want to move on. I want to stop fighting. I want to build something that isn't defined by him." Nathan understood. He wanted the same thing. "Then we take the deal," he said. Evelyn nodded slowly. "Okay." The plea agreement was finalized 3 weeks later. Damian Vale stood in a courtroom, his expensive suit replaced by prison orange, and admitted guilt to conspiracy charges. He was sentenced to 5 years, no possibility of parole. Nathan sat in the gallery with Evelyn and Jamie, watching the man who'd tried to destroy them get led away in handcuffs. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like exhaustion. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Nathan pushed through without comment, keeping Jamie close. But Evelyn stopped. She turned to face the cameras, her expression calm. "I want to say something," she began. "For the past year, my life has been defined by fear, anger, and the need to survive. I let someone else's cruelty dictate my choices. But that ends today." She paused, her voice strengthening. "I'm stepping back from Arclight, not because I'm weak, but because I'm choosing what matters. I'm choosing the people I love. I'm choosing peace." The reporters erupted with questions, but Evelyn was already walking away. She took Nathan's hand, smiled at Jamie, and together they left the courthouse behind. That night, they had dinner at Nathan's apartment. Nothing fancy, spaghetti and garlic bread, Jamie's favorite. The boy talked nonstop about school, about his friends, about the science project he wanted to build. He laughed, made silly jokes, spilled juice on the table, and didn't flinch when Nathan wiped it up. He was healing, they all were. After Jamie went to bed, Nathan and Evelyn sat on the couch, exhausted but content. "I meant what I said," Evelyn murmured, "about stepping back. I know. I'm scared." "Of what?" "That I won't know who I am without Arclight. That company's been my identity for 10 years. Nathan pulled her closer. "Then you'll figure out a new identity. One that's yours, not his." Evelyn was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I want to do something good. Something that helps people who don't have power." "Like what?" "I don't know yet, but I will." Nathan kissed her forehead. "I believe you." "Yeah." They sat together in the quiet apartment, the city humming beyond the windows, and for the first time in months, the future didn't feel terrifying. It felt possible. 2 months later, Nathan stood in the half-finished frame of a house on the east side of Denver. It was a small project, a single-family home for a veteran who'd lost everything in a fire. Nathan had taken the job for almost nothing, just enough to cover materials. Marcus worked beside him, hammering joists into place. "You're building a reputation," Marcus said. "People are talking. Good or bad? Good. They're saying you're the guy who helps people who need it." Nathan smiled faintly. "That's the idea." His phone buzzed, a text from Evelyn. "Community Center project just got approved. They want you to lead the build." Nathan's chest swelled. After Arclight, Evelyn had started a foundation focused on rebuilding struggling neighborhoods. She'd poured her own money into it, kept her involvement quiet, and let the communities lead. And she'd hired Nathan to do the construction. It wasn't a billion-dollar empire, but it was real. "When do we start?" he texted back. "Next month. But there's a board meeting tonight. Can you make it?" "I'll be there." Marcus grinned. "You two are disgustingly wholesome now." "Shut up." "Just saying, from billionaire drama to nonprofit heroes, it's very Hallmark." Nathan threw a scrap of wood at him, but he was smiling. That evening, Nathan sat in a small conference room with Evelyn, Carter, and a handful of community organizers. They were planning the community center, a space for job training, childcare, and after-school programs. The conversation was passionate, sometimes heated, but always focused on one thing: helping people who'd been forgotten. Nathan listened, offered input when asked, and watched Evelyn in her element. She was different now, lighter. The weight she'd carried for so long had lifted. After the meeting, they walked to the parking lot together. "You were good in there," Nathan said. "I'm learning." Evelyn smiled. "Turns out building something for people instead of profit is way more satisfying." "Who knew?" She laughed, then stopped walking. "Nathan." "Yeah? I'm happy." It was such a simple statement, but the way she said it, like it was a revelation, made Nathan's throat tighten. "Me too," he said. Evelyn kissed him, slow and sweet, under the streetlights. And for the first time in either of their lives, happiness didn't feel fragile. It felt earned. Jamie's 8th birthday fell on a Saturday in late spring. They celebrated at the park. Balloons, cake, a dozen kids running wild while parents chatted on the sidelines. Nathan watched his son laugh, surrounded by friends, and felt something settle in his chest. Peace. Evelyn appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of punch. "He's having a good time," she said. "Yeah. You did this. You gave him this." Nathan shook his head. "We did this." Evelyn smiled. "Yeah, we did." Jamie ran over, breathless and grinning. "Dad, can Evelyn stay for cake?" "She better. She helped make it." "You helped?" Jamie's eyes widened. "Is it going to taste weird?" Evelyn gasped in mock offense. "Excuse me, sir. My baking has improved." "Prove it." They cut the cake, chocolate with blue frosting, slightly lopsided but edible. Jamie took a huge bite, chewed thoughtfully, then gave a solemn thumbs up. "Acceptable," he declared. Everyone laughed, and as the sun set over the park, Nathan looked at the life he'd built, messy, imperfect, but undeniably his, and realized something. He'd spent so long surviving that he'd forgotten what living felt like. But now he remembered, and he wasn't letting go. The months that followed felt like learning to breathe again after being underwater too long. Nathan's construction business grew slowly but steadily. Word spread through the neighborhoods he worked in. The guy who didn't overcharge, who showed up on time, who actually cared about the people living in the homes he built. It wasn't glamorous work. Most days he came home covered in sawdust and paint, his back aching, his hands raw. But it was honest. And for the first time since Claire left, Nathan felt like he was building something that mattered. Evelyn's foundation expanded too. What started as a single community center project turned into 3, then 5. She hired a small team, people who believed in the mission more than the paycheck, and spent her days in planning meetings and site visits instead of boardrooms and investor calls. She was happier than Nathan had ever seen her. The sharp edges that came from years of fighting Damien had softened. She smiled more, laughed easier, stopped checking her phone every 5 minutes like she was waiting for the next attack. But not everything healed cleanly. Jamie still had nightmares. Not every night, but often enough that Nathan kept a sleeping bag next to his bed for when his son crawled in at 2 in the morning, shaking and silent. Dr. Reyes said it was normal, that trauma didn't follow a timeline, that healing wasn't linear. Nathan understood that intellectually, but watching his kid wake up terrified, calling for him in the dark, never stopped tearing him apart. And then there was the other thing, the thing Nathan didn't talk about, not even with Evelyn. The rage that still lived in his chest like a caged animal. He'd see a black SUV and his hands would clench. He'd hear about Damien in the news, some appeal his lawyers filed, some statement about wrongful conviction, and Nathan would have to leave the room before he put his fist through a wall. 5 years wasn't enough. Would never be enough. The man who'd terrorized his son, who'd orchestrated a kidnapping like it was just another business move, was sitting in a minimum security facility with cable TV and visiting hours. Nathan tried not to think about it. Mostly, he failed. It was a Thursday afternoon in late summer when everything shifted again. Nathan was at a job site in 5 Points, framing out walls for a duplex renovation, when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Mr. Cole?" A woman's voice, professional and clipped. Yeah. This is Linda Vasquez. I'm an attorney with the district attorney's office. Nathan's stomach dropped. What's wrong? Oh, nothing's wrong. But I need to speak with you about Damien Vale's case. Can you come to my office today? Why? What happened? I'd rather discuss it in person. Are you available at 4? Nathan looked at Marcus, who was measuring a door frame nearby. Marcus nodded, waving him off. Yeah, Nathan said. I'll be there. The line went dead. Nathan stood there for a moment, phone still pressed to his ear, a cold dread settling in his gut. Marcus walked over. Everything okay? I don't know. The DA's office was downtown, in a gray building that smelled like old coffee and government bureaucracy. Nathan sat in a waiting room with outdated magazines and fluorescent lights that hummed too loud, his leg bouncing nervously. When Linda Vasquez finally called him in, she looked tired. Mid-40s, sharp suit, the kind of expression that came from seeing too much and believing in too little. Thank you for coming, Mr. Cole. She gestured to a chair. I'll get straight to it. We have a situation with Damien Vale. Nathan's jaw tightened. What kind of situation? He's claiming new evidence has come to light. Evidence that suggests the kidnapping wasn't his idea. Nathan felt the room tilt. That's bullshit. I agree. But his legal team has filed motions based on testimony from Marcus Reed. The guy who actually took Jamie. Yes, Reed is now claiming he acted independently, that Vale never gave direct orders, and that the emails we used as evidence were fabricated. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. You have the emails, you have the server logs, you have everything. We do. But Reed signed an affidavit contradicting his earlier testimony. He's saying he was coerced by police, that he made false statements to reduce his sentence. He's lying. Probably, but Vale's lawyers are good, very good. They're arguing that without Reed's testimony, the case falls apart. Nathan felt the rage rising, hot and sharp. So what, he just walks? No, but there's going to be a hearing. The judge will review the evidence again. If Reed's new testimony holds weight, Vale's sentence could be reduced, potentially overturned. The words hit Nathan like a punch to the chest. You're telling me the man who kidnapped my son might go free. I'm telling you it's a possibility, a small one, but possible. Nathan stood abruptly, the chair scraping against the floor. This is insane. I know, and we're fighting it, but I need you to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Nathan couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, the walls closing in. When's the hearing? He managed. 3 weeks. And if he wins? Linda's expression was grim. Then Damien Vale walks out of prison a free man. Nathan didn't tell Evelyn right away. He went home, picked up Jamie from school, made dinner, helped with homework, read bedtime stories. All the normal rhythms of their life. But inside, he was screaming. It wasn't until Jamie was asleep and the apartment was quiet that Nathan finally let himself fall apart. He sat on the couch, head in his hands, and felt the weight of it crushing him. They'd fought so hard, sacrificed so much, and now Damien might just walk away. His phone buzzed, a text from Evelyn. Haven't heard from you today? Everything okay? Nathan stared at the message for a long time. Then he called her. She answered on the second ring. Hey, what's wrong? Can you come over? Now? Yeah. I'll be there in 20 minutes. Ok. Evelyn arrived with takeout she'd grabbed on the way. Thai food neither of them would eat. She took one look at Nathan's face and set the bags on the counter. Tell me, she said. So he did. He told her about the call, the meeting, the new testimony. He told her about the hearing, the possibility of Damien walking free, the feeling that everything they'd endured had been for nothing. Evelyn listened without interrupting, her face growing paler with every word. When Nathan finished, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, He paid Reed off. What? Damien. He paid Marcus Reed to recant his testimony. That's the only explanation. Nathan hadn't even considered it. How? through intermediaries, offshore accounts. He's got the resources, even in prison. And Reed's facing 20 years. If Damien offered him enough money, a new identity, a way out. Evelyn's voice was hollow. Reed would take it. Nathan felt sick. Can we prove that? Not in 3 weeks. Then what do we do? Evelyn stood pacing the small living room. We fight. We show up at that hearing and we make sure the judge knows exactly who Damien Vale is. The judge already knows. Then we remind him. We bring everything. Every piece of evidence, every witness, every single thing Damien's ever done. We make it impossible for that judge to let him walk. Nathan wanted to believe her, but the exhaustion was winning. What if it's not enough? Evelyn stopped pacing. She knelt in front of him, taking his hands. Then we deal with it, together. But we don't give up. Not now. Nathan looked into her eyes and saw the same fear he felt. But he also saw something else. Determination. Okay, he said quietly. We fight. The next 3 weeks were a blur of preparation. Linda Vasquez worked around the clock, rebuilding the case from the ground up. She brought in forensic experts to verify the email chain, digital analysts to confirm the server logs hadn't been tampered with, psychologists to testify about Jamie's trauma. Nathan gave statement after statement, reliving the worst night of his life over and over until the words lost all meaning. Evelyn used every connection she had left in the tech world to dig into Marcus Reed's finances. She found irregularities, payments from shell companies, transfers to offshore accounts, but nothing concrete enough to prove Damien's involvement. Carter ran surveillance, tracking Reed's movements from prison, documenting every visitor, every phone call. And through it all, Nathan tried to keep Jamie's life normal. School, soccer practice, movie nights, anything to shield his son from the storm building around them. But Jamie knew something was wrong. Is the bad man coming back? He asked one night at dinner. Nathan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. What? The man who took me. Is he coming back? Nathan set down his fork carefully. No, buddy. He's in jail. But what if he gets out? He won't. But what if he does? Nathan moved to the chair next to Jamie, pulling him close. Then I'll keep you safe, no matter what. That's my job. Okay? Jamie nodded, but his eyes were still wide with fear. Later, after Jamie was in bed, Nathan sat in the dark living room and wondered what the hell he was supposed to do if Damien actually walked free. The restraining order wouldn't mean anything. A piece of paper couldn't stop a man with unlimited resources and a vendetta. Nathan's phone buzzed, a text from Carter. Found something? Call me. Nathan dialed immediately. What'd you find? He asked when Carter answered. Reed had a visitor yesterday. Woman in her 60s, well-dressed. She signed in as his aunt. So? Reed doesn't have an aunt. I checked his family records. This woman doesn't exist in his life. Nathan's pulse quickened. Who is she? I'm running facial recognition now. But my guess? She's a lawyer, one of Damien's. Can you prove it? Issei. Working on it, but even if I can, it might not matter. Visiting a client isn't illegal, even if she's coordinating perjury. Proving that is the hard part. Nathan cursed under his breath. Keep digging. I will. But Nathan, you need to prepare for the possibility that this goes sideways. I know. Do you? Because if Damien walks, he's coming after you. And Evelyn. And probably Jamie too. You need a plan. Nathan's hands were shaking. What kind of plan? Eats. The kind that keeps your family safe. I can set something up. New identities, relocation, security. We're not running. Nathan, I said we're not running. I've spent my whole life running from things I couldn't control. I'm done. Carter was quiet for a moment. All right. Then we make sure he doesn't walk, Isak. The hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday morning at 9. Nathan woke up at 5, couldn't eat breakfast, and spent an hour just staring at Jamie sleeping peacefully in his bed. Evelyn picked him up at 7. She looked as exhausted as he felt, dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a severe bun, her expression carved from stone. You ready? She asked. Nathan didn't answer. They drove to the courthouse in silence. The building was already swarming with reporters when they arrived. Camera crews, photographers, journalists shouting questions as Nathan and Evelyn pushed through the crowd. Mr. Cole, how do you feel about Reed's new testimony? Ms. Drake, do you think Damien Vale deserves to be free? Is your relationship with Mr. Cole affecting your judgment? Nathan kept his head down, ignoring all of it. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Spectators filled every seat, reporters lined the back wall, and security guards stood at every door. Linda Vasquez was already at the prosecutor's table, surrounded by files and legal pads. Nathan and Evelyn took seats behind her, and then Damien walked in. He was thinner than Nathan remembered, his face harder, but his eyes were the same, cold, calculating. He scanned the room until he found Nathan, and then he smiled. Nathan's hands clenched into fists. Evelyn put a hand on his arm. "Don't," she whispered. The bailiff called the room to order. Judge Marilyn Chen entered, a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who'd presided over the original trial, and everyone stood. "Be seated," she said. Her voice was crisp, authoritative. "We're here to review new evidence in the case of Colorado versus Vale. Mr. Porter, you may proceed." Damien's lead attorney, a silver-haired man in a suit that probably cost more than Nathan's truck, stood smoothly. "Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate the court's time. As outlined in our motion, new testimony has emerged that fundamentally undermines the prosecution's case. Marcus Reed, the individual who carried out the alleged kidnapping, has now stated unequivocally that my client, Damien Vale, had no knowledge of or involvement in the incident. Mr. Reed acted independently, motivated by personal grievances against Miss Drake and Mr. Cole." Linda was on her feet immediately. "Your Honor, this is a transparent attempt to manipulate the legal system. Marcus Reed's original testimony was given under oath, corroborated by digital evidence, and consistent with physical facts. His sudden change of story reeks of coercion and financial incentive." "Do you have proof of that, Ms. Vasquez?" Judge Chen asked. "We have evidence of suspicious financial activity in Mr. Reed's accounts, Your Honor. Payments from shell corporations that—" "Circumstantial," Porter interrupted. "My client is a businessman. He has numerous business dealings. Attempting to connect unrelated financial transactions to this case is a desperate reach." The judge held up a hand. "I'll review the financial records myself. In the meantime, I want to hear from Mr. Reed directly. Bailiff, bring him in." Nathan's stomach twisted as Marcus Reed was led into the courtroom in handcuffs. Reed looked different, cleaner, less defeated. He walked with a confidence that hadn't been there during the original trial. He was sworn in and took the stand. Porter approached him with a smile. "Mr. Reed, thank you for your courage in coming forward. Can you explain to the court why you're recanting your previous testimony?" Reed cleared his throat. "I lied before. I was scared. The police told me if I didn't cooperate, I'd spend the rest of my life in prison. So I said what they wanted me to say. I made up the story about Mr. Vale giving me orders. And the emails, the digital evidence? I don't know anything about that. Maybe someone faked them. Maybe the police did. I just know Mr. Vale never told me to kidnap anyone." Linda stood. "Your Honor, may I cross-examine?" "Proceed." Linda approached the stand, her expression icy. "Mr. Reed, you testified under oath during the original trial that Damien Vale personally instructed you to abduct Jamie Cole. You provided detailed accounts of conversations, meetings, and payment arrangements. Are you now saying all of that was a lie?" "Yes, ma'am." "And you committed perjury, a serious felony." "I know, and I'm willing to face the consequences. I just want to tell the truth." "How convenient that this truth emerged after you received several large payments into offshore accounts registered under false names." Porter jumped up. "Objection." "There's no proven connection. Your Honor, we have bank records showing—" Judge Chen banged her gavel. "Enough. Ms. Vasquez, unless you can definitively prove those payments came from Mr. Vale, this line of questioning is speculative." Linda's jaw clenched. "Your Honor, we need more time to investigate." "You've had 3 weeks. These accounts are deliberately obscured. Tracing them requires—" "I understand the challenge, Counselor, but I can't delay this hearing indefinitely based on suspicion." Judge Chen turned to Reed. "Mr. Reed, you understand that if you're lying now, You'll face additional charges. I understand, Your Honor. I'm telling the truth. Nathan felt the floor falling out from under him. This couldn't be happening. Judge Chen reviewed documents in silence for what felt like hours. The courtroom was so quiet Nathan could hear his own heartbeat. Finally, she looked up. This is a difficult situation. On one hand, we have Mr. Reed's original testimony and digital evidence suggesting Mr. Vale's involvement. On the other hand, we have Mr. Reed's recantation and questions about the integrity of that evidence. Given the reasonable doubt introduced today, I'm inclined to say, Your Honor. Evelyn stood. Everyone turned. Judge Chen frowned. Ms. Drake, you're not counsel in this case. I know, but I have information the court needs to hear. Porter was on his feet. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Let her speak, Judge Chen said. Evelyn walked to the front of the courtroom, her hands shaking but her voice steady. I was married to Damien Vale for 6 years. I know how he operates. He doesn't get his hands dirty. He uses intermediaries, shell companies, and legal loopholes to maintain plausible deniability. But make no mistake, he orchestrated Jamie Cole's kidnapping, not because he wanted money or revenge in the traditional sense. He did it to prove he still controls me, to show me that no matter how far I run, no matter who I love, he can destroy it. Ms. Drake, Porter began. Evelyn ignored him. Marcus Reed didn't act alone. He's lying now because Damien offered him something. Money, protection, a reduced sentence somewhere down the line. And if this court lets Damien walk free based on that lie, it's sending a message to every powerful man who thinks he's above the law. Judge Chen's expression was unreadable. That's a compelling statement, Ms. Drake, but it's not evidence. What? Was May? Yes. Then let me provide evidence. Evelyn pulled a flash drive from her pocket. This contains recordings of phone calls between Damien and me during our marriage. Calls where he explicitly threatened to ruin anyone I cared about if I ever left him. Calls where he detailed exactly how he'd use his resources to destroy people who crossed him. It's not direct proof of the kidnapping, but it establishes a pattern of behavior that corroborates everything we've been saying. Porter was livid. Your Honor, these recordings were not disclosed during discovery because I only found them last week, Evelyn said. They were backed up on an old server I'd forgotten about, but they're real, and they're admissible. Judge Chen held out her hand. Give me the drive. Evelyn walked forward and handed it over. The judge plugged it into her computer, put on headphones, and listened. Nathan watched her face, trying to read every micro-expression. After 10 minutes, Judge Chen removed the headphones. Her face was stone. Mr. Porter, your client is a dangerous man. Your Honor, I'm not finished. These recordings paint a picture of systematic manipulation, intimidation, and abuse. While they don't prove Mr. Vale ordered the kidnapping, they establish credibility for the prosecution's theory. Combined with the original evidence, which I'm now even more skeptical was fabricated, I find Mr. Reed's new testimony unreliable. Nathan's heart stopped. Therefore, Judge Chen continued, I'm denying the motion to overturn Mr. Vale's conviction. His sentence stands. The courtroom erupted. Reporters shouted. Damien's lawyers objected loudly. Porter demanded appeals, but Judge Chen's gavel silenced them all. Mr. Vale will serve his full sentence. This hearing is adjourned. Damien turned in his seat, his eyes finding Evelyn. The look on his face was pure hatred. But then the guards were leading him away, back through the doors, back to prison. And he was gone. Nathan couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Evelyn collapsed into the chair beside him, tears streaming down her face. Linda turned to them, a small smile on her exhausted face. We won. Nathan nodded numbly. They'd won, but the cost of that victory sat heavy in his chest. Hey. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy was overwhelming. Nathan and Evelyn pushed through without comment, climbing into a car Carter had waiting. They didn't speak on the drive back to Nathan's apartment. When they finally walked inside, Jamie was waiting with Mrs. Alvarez. He looked up from his homework, saw their faces, and knew. Is it over? He asked quietly. Nathan knelt down, pulling his son into a tight hug. Yeah, buddy, it's over. Jamie buried his face in Nathan's shoulder. For real this time? For real. Mrs. Alvarez excused herself quietly, leaving the three of them alone. Evelyn sat on the couch, her head in her hands. Nathan joined her, still holding Jamie. I can't believe you had those recordings, Nathan said. Evelyn looked up, her eyes red. I didn't. Nathan blinked. What? I found the old server. But the recordings, they weren't there. I made them up. Nathan stared at her. You lied to a judge. I committed perjury to keep that monster in prison. Evelyn's voice was flat. He kidnapped your son, Nathan. He destroyed lives. And he was about to walk free on a technicality. So yes, I lied. Evelyn, I know what I did, and I'd do it again. Nathan didn't know what to say. Part of him was horrified. Part of him was grateful. Part of him was terrified of what this meant. Jamie pulled back, looking between them. What's wrong? Nothing, buddy, Nathan said quickly. Everything's okay. But Jamie wasn't convinced. He looked at Evelyn. Are you in trouble? Evelyn managed a small smile. No, sweetheart. I'm not in trouble. Promise? Promise. Jamie seemed satisfied with that. He climbed off Nathan's lap and went back to his homework. Nathan and Evelyn sat in silence. Finally, Nathan said, What you did was dangerous. I know. If they find out, they won't. The recordings are on that drive. They're fake, but they're convincing. Judge Chen heard what she needed to hear. That's not the point. Then what is the point, Nathan? Evelyn's voice cracked. That I should have let him walk? That I should have trusted the system to work when it's been failing us from the start? I don't know. Neither do I. Evelyn stood, grabbing her coat. I need to go. Evelyn, I need some time to think, to process all of this. Nathan stood too. Don't leave like this. I'm not leaving. I just need space. She kissed him quickly, then she was gone. Nathan stood in the quiet apartment, listening to Jamie's pencil scratch against paper, and wondered if they'd just traded one kind of hell for another. Evelyn didn't call for 3 days. Nathan gave her space, even though it was killing him. He focused on work, on Jamie, on anything that kept his mind from spiraling. But on the 4th day, she showed up at his apartment at 7 in the morning. She looked like she hadn't slept. Can we talk? She asked. Nathan let her in. They sat at the small kitchen table while Jamie got ready for school in the other room. I'm sorry, Evelyn said, for disappearing like that. You needed time. I get it. I've been thinking about what I did, about the recordings, the lie. She took a shaky breath. And I keep coming back to the same question. If I had to do it again, would I? Would you? Yes. There was no hesitation. Because keeping Damien in prison was the right thing to do, even if the way I did it was wrong. Nathan absorbed that. I don't know if I can argue with that logic. You should. It's dangerous logic, the kind that justifies all sorts of terrible things. Maybe, but you're not a terrible person. How do you know? Because terrible people don't question themselves like this. Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. I'm scared, Nathan. Scared of what I'm becoming. Scared that fighting Damien for so long turned me into someone like him. Nathan reached across the table, taking her hand. You're nothing like him. How can you be sure? Because you care. About people. About doing the right thing, even when it costs you. Damien never cared about anyone but himself. Evelyn squeezed his hand. I love you. You know that, right? I know. And I don't want to lose you. Or Jamie, you're the only good things left in my life. You're not losing us. But what if... Jamie burst into the kitchen, backpack slung over one shoulder. I'm ready. Oh, hi, Evelyn. Evelyn wiped her eyes quickly, forcing a smile. Hi, kiddo. Are you staying for breakfast? I don't know. Am I? She looked at Nathan. Nathan smiled. Yeah, you are. The weeks turned into months. Life found a new rhythm. Nathan's business continued to grow. He hired 2 more workers, guys from the neighborhood who needed a break, and took on bigger projects. The community center. Evelyn's foundation funded was nearly finished, and there was already talk of expanding to other parts of the city. Evelyn settled into her new role running the foundation. She traveled less, smiled more, and started sleeping through the night without nightmares about Damien. Jamie thrived. His nightmares became less frequent. He joined a soccer team, made new friends, and stopped asking if the bad man was coming back. They became a family in all the ways that mattered. Nathan and Evelyn didn't live together, not yet, but they might as well have. She had a drawer at his apartment. He had a key to her penthouse. They had dinner together most nights, alternating between his place and hers, building a life that felt permanent, even without a formal commitment. It was Jamie who brought it up first. They were at the park on a Saturday afternoon, Nathan pushing Jamie on the swings, while Evelyn sat on a bench reading a book. "Dad," Jamie called, "can I ask you something?" "Shoot. Are you and Evelyn going to get married?" Nathan nearly tripped. "What? You heard me. Are you?" Nathan glanced at Evelyn, who'd lowered her book and was trying not to smile. "I don't know, buddy. Why?" "Because Tommy's parents are married, and Sarah's parents. And if you love Evelyn, you should marry her. It's not that simple." "Seems simple to me." Nathan pushed the swing higher. "We're still figuring things out." "Figuring what out? You already live together, kind of. She makes you happy. She's nice to me. What else is there?" Nathan didn't have an answer. That night, after Jamie was asleep, Nathan and Evelyn sat on the couch, with glasses of wine. Neither of them were really drinking. "He asked about marriage," Nathan said. "I heard." "What do you think?" Evelyn was quiet for a long time. "I think I've been married before, and it was a disaster. I'm not Damien. I know, but marriage means lawyers and paperwork and combining lives in ways that terrify me. It also means commitment, partnership, building something real. We already have that, do we?" Nathan turned to face her, because sometimes it feels like we're both waiting for the other shoe to drop, like we're so used to things falling apart that we can't imagine them actually working. Evelyn's eyes glistened. "Maybe. I don't want to pressure you, but Jamie's right. I love you, and I want to build a life with you. A real one. We have a real life. Then let's make it official." Evelyn set down her wine glass, her hands shaking. "What are you asking?" Nathan hadn't planned this, didn't have a ring, didn't have a speech, but suddenly it felt right. "I'm asking you to marry me, not because we need a piece of paper, but because I want the world to know you're mine and I'm yours. Because I want Jamie to have a mom who chooses to be here. Because I love you, and I want to spend the rest of my life proving it." But Evelyn's tears spilled over. "Nathan, you don't have to answer now. Think about it. Take all the time you need." "I don't need time." Evelyn's voice was steady despite the tears. "Yes." Nathan blinked. "Yes? Yes, I'll marry you. Yes to all of it." Nathan pulled her close, kissing her like his life depended on it. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were crying. "We're getting married," Evelyn whispered, like she couldn't quite believe it. "Yeah, we are." "Jamie's going to lose his mind." Nathan laughed. "Probably." They sat together in the quiet apartment, holding each other, and for the first time in either of their lives, the future felt bright. Jamie didn't lose his mind when they told him. He went very still, looked at both of them with wide eyes, and then asked the most practical question Nathan had ever heard from an 8-year-old. "Does this mean Evelyn's moving in?" Nathan glanced at Evelyn, who was trying not to laugh. "Yeah, buddy," Nathan said. "Eventually. Can we get a dog now?" "We'll talk about it." "That means no." "That means we'll talk about it." Jamie considered this, then nodded seriously. "Okay, but I want a big dog, not one of those little yappy ones." Evelyn knelt down to his level. "Deal. Big dog only." Jamie grinned, then threw his arms around her neck. Nathan watched them, his chest tight with something he couldn't name. Joy, maybe. Or relief. Or just the overwhelming sense that somehow, against all odds, they'd actually made it here. But that feeling didn't last long. 2 days later, Nathan got a call from Linda Vasquez. "We have a problem," she said without preamble. Nathan's stomach dropped. "What kind of problem?" "Damien's legal team filed a motion claiming new evidence suggests the recordings Drake submitted were fabricated. Montes. Nathan's blood went cold. How? They hired a forensic audio analyst. He's claiming the metadata doesn't match, that the files were created recently, not years ago. Can they prove it? They're trying. We have a hearing in 2 weeks. If the judge determines the recordings were fake, Evelyn could face perjury charges, and Damien's conviction could be overturned. And Nathan felt the world tilt. You're telling me this whole thing could fall apart. I'm telling you we need to prepare for that possibility. What about the original evidence, the emails, the testimony? Yes. All of it gets called into question if the recordings are proven false. Damien's lawyers will argue we fabricated everything. Nathan couldn't breathe. This can't be happening. Mr. Cole, I need you to tell me the truth. Were those recordings real? Nathan hesitated a second too long. That's what I thought, Linda said quietly. You need to talk to Ms. Drake. And you both need to get lawyers. Good ones. The line went dead. Nathan sat in his truck outside the construction site, hands shaking, and tried to figure out how to tell Evelyn that her lie was about to destroy everything. He waited until that evening, after Jamie was in bed. Evelyn was at his apartment, going through wedding magazines she'd picked up even though they hadn't set a date. She looked happy, relaxed, like she'd finally let herself believe in something good. Nathan hated what he was about to do. We need to talk, he said. Evelyn looked up, her smile fading. What's wrong? He told her about the call, the motion, the audio analyst. With every word, Evelyn's face went paler. They're going to prove the recordings were fake, she said when he finished. It wasn't a question. Probably. Which means I'm going to prison. We don't know that. Nathan, I committed perjury in a criminal case. If they prove it, the judge won't have a choice. Evelyn's voice was hollow. And Damien will walk free. Nathan moved to the couch, pulling her close. We'll fight this. How? The recordings are fake. There's no fighting that. Then we find another way. We get better lawyers. There is no other way. Evelyn pulled back, looking at him with eyes that had gone dead. I knew this might happen. I knew the risk when I did it. I thought we had more time. Evelyn, you should distance yourself from me, publicly, before this gets worse. Nathan stared at her. Are you serious? If I go down for this, it's going to be a media circus. They'll drag everyone through the mud. You, Jamie, your business. You'll lose everything you've built. I don't care. You should care. Jamie needs stability. He needs you. Nathan's voice was fierce. We both do. And I'm not walking away because things got hard. That's not how this works. Nathan, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You lied to protect my son, to protect me, and now you're trying to protect us again by pushing us away. But I'm not going anywhere. Evelyn's composure cracked. I'm scared. I know. Me too. What if I go to prison? What if Damien wins? Then we deal with it, together. Evelyn buried her face in her hands. I've ruined everything. You haven't ruined anything. You made a choice, a hard choice. And now we're going to face the consequences together. They sat in silence for a long time, holding each other while the weight of it settled around them. Finally, Evelyn said, I need to hire a lawyer. Already working on it. Carter gave me some names. Good lawyers aren't cheap. I don't care what it costs. Nathan, you can't afford. I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Evelyn looked at him, and despite everything, she managed a small smile. How are you so calm? I'm not. I'm terrified, but falling apart won't help. You're better at this than me. At what? Hope. Nathan kissed her forehead. We're going to get through this. He wished he believed it. The next 2 weeks were brutal. Evelyn hired Jonathan Cross, a criminal defense attorney with a reputation for winning impossible cases. He was expensive. His retainer alone cost more than Nathan made in 6 months. But he was good. He reviewed the recordings, the metadata, the entire case file. Then he called a meeting. They sat in his office on the 20th floor of a downtown high-rise, leather chairs and glass tables, and a view of the mountains that should have been calming but wasn't. "I'll be direct," Cross said. He was in his 50s, gray hair, expensive suit, the kind of confidence that came from decades of courtroom victories. "The recordings are demonstrably fake. The metadata shows they were created 3 days before you submitted them to the court. There's no arguing that." Evelyn's face was stone. "So what's our defense?" "We argue duress. You were under extreme emotional distress, fearing for the safety of Mr. Cole and his son. You acted irrationally in a moment of desperation. It's not a great defense, but it's what we have." "What are my chances?" Cross was quiet for a moment. "Realistically, 40%. Maybe 50 if the judge is sympathetic. And if I lose, 2 to 5 years, possibly probation if we can negotiate a plea." Nathan felt sick. "What about Damien's conviction?" "If Ms. Drake's perjury is confirmed, his lawyers will absolutely use it to argue for overturning the verdict. They'll claim the entire prosecution was built on fabricated evidence. Even though the original emails and testimony were real, they'll create reasonable doubt. That's all they need." Evelyn stood abruptly, walking to the window. "So I go to prison and Damien goes free." "Perfect." "Not necessarily," Cross said. "If we can demonstrate that Damien orchestrated Reed's recantation, prove he paid Reed to lie, we can argue that your actions, while illegal, were necessary to prevent a miscarriage of justice." "Can you prove that?" Nathan asked. "I have investigators working on it, but Damien's too smart to leave an obvious trail. We need a break, something concrete." Evelyn turned from the window. "What if I confess?" "What?" Nathan stood. "What if I go to the judge, admit I fabricated the recordings, and take full responsibility? Maybe if I'm upfront about it, she'll be lenient." Cross shook his head. "That's a terrible idea. Once you confess, you lose all leverage. The prosecution will demand the maximum sentence to make an example of you. But Damien will still probably walk. Your confession won't change that." Evelyn looked defeated. "So we're just waiting for the inevitable." "Geke?" "We're preparing for every scenario," Cross corrected, "and we're not giving up. But you need to understand what you're facing." Nathan reached for Evelyn's hand. She took it, but her grip was weak. They left the office in silence. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. Nathan woke up that day feeling like he was walking to an execution. He dropped Jamie at school early, making up some excuse about a work meeting. Jamie saw through it. The kid always did, but he didn't push. "You okay, Dad?" he asked before getting out of the car. "Yeah, buddy, I'm okay." "You don't look okay." Nathan managed to smile. "Just a long week. I'll pick you up at 3, all right?" "Okay, tell Evelyn I said hi." "I will." Jamie hesitated, then leaned over and hugged him. "Love you, Dad." Nathan's throat tightened. "Love you too, kid." He watched Jamie walk into school, backpack bouncing, completely unaware that his world might be about to fall apart again. Then Nathan drove to the courthouse. Evelyn was already there, standing outside with Cross. She wore a dark blue suit, her hair pulled back, her face carefully blank. She looked like she was already in prison. "Hey," Nathan said, pulling her into a hug. "Hey." Her voice was small. "You ready?" "No." Cross cleared his throat. "We should go in." The courtroom was less crowded than last time. Fewer reporters, fewer spectators, but it felt more oppressive. The walls seemed closer, the air heavier. Damien wasn't there, but his lawyers were. Porter and 2 associates, all of them looking confident. Judge Chen entered, and everyone stood. "Be seated," she said, her expression grim. "We're here to address allegations that evidence submitted by Ms. Evelyn Drake in the case of Colorado versus Vail was fabricated. Mr. Porter, present your findings." "Damam." Porter stood, smooth and practiced. "Your Honor, our forensic analyst has conclusively determined that the audio recordings submitted by Ms. Drake were created on November 18th of this year, 3 days before they were presented to this court. The metadata is irrefutable. These recordings are not from Ms. Drake's marriage to Mr. Vale. They are recent fabrications. He handed a thick report to the judge. Cross stood. Your Honor, we don't dispute the timeline. Ms. Drake created those recordings in a moment of extreme distress, believing that without additional evidence, a dangerous man would be released from prison. Her actions, while misguided, were motivated by a genuine fear for her safety and the safety of Mr. Cole's son. Judge Chen looked at Evelyn. Ms. Drake, did you fabricate those recordings? Evelyn stood slowly. Yes, Your Honor. The courtroom murmured. And you submitted them to this court knowing they were false? Yes. Do you understand that's perjury? I do. Judge Chen's expression was unreadable. Why? Evelyn took a breath. Because I couldn't let him walk free. Damien Vale orchestrated the kidnapping of an innocent child to punish me for moving on with my life. He's manipulated the legal system at every turn. And when I saw that he might escape justice because of a technicality and a bought witness, I panicked. I made those recordings because I thought they were the only way to make sure the truth was heard. The truth is what the evidence shows, Ms. Drake, not what you wish it to be. I know that now, but in that moment, all I could think about was that little boy, terrified and alone because of something Damien did. And I couldn't let that man walk away. Judge Chen was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, Your intentions don't excuse your actions. You lied to this court. You submitted fabricated evidence in a criminal proceeding. That is a serious crime. I understand, Your Honor. Ms. Drake, I'm remanding you to custody pending a formal perjury trial. Bailiff, Your Honor, wait. Carter stood from the back of the courtroom. Everyone turned. Judge Chen frowned. Who are you? Carter Briggs, former FBI, currently head of security for Ms. Drake's Foundation. I have evidence the court needs to see. Porter was on his feet. Your Honor, this is highly irregular. Let him speak, Judge Chen said. Carter walked forward carrying a folder. Your Honor, for the past month, I've been investigating Marcus Reed's finances and communications. 2 days ago, I obtained proof that Damien Vale paid Reed $750,000 to recant his testimony. The courtroom exploded. Porter was shouting objections. Cross looked stunned. Porter, Evelyn grabbed Nathan's hand so hard it hurt. Judge Chen banged her gavel. Order, Mr. Briggs, explain. Carter opened the folder. Reed received payments from a shell corporation called Montrose Holdings between September and November. I traced the ownership through 3 layers of offshore accounts. The ultimate beneficiary is Damien Vale. He handed documents to the judge. Furthermore, Carter continued, I obtained copies of encrypted messages between Vale and Reed discussing the payment and the testimony change. The messages were sent via a private server Vale uses for sensitive communications. I have screenshots and metadata proving their authenticity. Judge Chen reviewed the documents, her face darkening with every page. Porter tried to intervene. Your Honor, we need time to verify. You'll have your time, Mr. Porter. But if these documents are authentic, your client orchestrated witness tampering and perjury. That's far more serious than what Miss Drake did. She looked at Carter. How did you obtain these messages? Carter hesitated. I'd rather not say, Your Honor. That's not good enough. I hacked Vale's server, which means the evidence might not be admissible, but it's real. Judge Chen closed her eyes briefly, as if asking for patience. Then she looked at Evelyn. Miss Drake, you're still guilty of perjury. That hasn't changed. But in light of this new information, I'm willing to consider the context of your actions. She turned to Porter. And you can tell your client that if these allegations are proven, he'll be facing additional charges that make his current sentence look like a vacation. Porter's jaw was clenched. We'll review the evidence and respond accordingly. You do that. In the meantime, I'm postponing Ms. Drake's custody and scheduling a full evidentiary hearing for 2 weeks from now. We're going to get to the bottom of this. All of it. She banged the gavel. Court is adjourned. Nathan couldn't move. Evelyn was crying, silent tears streaming down her face. Cross looked like he'd just witnessed a miracle. Carter walked over, his expression calm. You're welcome. Nathan stood and hugged him. How did you... I've been working on it since the first hearing. Took a while to crack Vale's security, but I got in, found everything. Is it real? The payments? The messages? Every word. Evelyn looked up. Carter, you could go to prison for this. Carter shrugged. So could you. Figured we might as well both take the risk. Why would you do that? Because Vale's a monster, and someone needed to stop him. I'll say... The 2 weeks before the evidentiary hearing were tense. Damien's lawyers tried every trick to discredit Carter's evidence, but the documents were too solid. The payments were real. The messages were real. The trail led directly back to Damien. Linda Vasquez reopened the investigation with renewed energy, bringing in federal prosecutors to examine the witness tampering charges. Reed, sensing the walls closing in, flipped again. He gave a full confession, detailing how Damien had contacted him through intermediaries, offered him $750,000, and helped disappearing after his release, all in exchange for recanting his testimony. The case against Damien grew stronger by the day, but Evelyn still faced perjury charges. Cross negotiated hard, arguing that her actions were provoked by Damien's criminal behavior, that she'd been trying to prevent a miscarriage of justice, that she deserved leniency. The prosecution countered that her intentions didn't matter, that perjury was perjury, that she needed to be held accountable. Nathan watched it all unfold, feeling helpless. On the morning of the hearing, he woke up early and found Evelyn already awake, sitting on his couch in the dark. Couldn't sleep? He asked. Nope. He sat beside her. Whatever happens today, I know. We'll deal with it together. I was going to say I love you, and I'm proud of you. Evelyn turned to him, tears in her eyes. I might go to prison, Nathan. I know. And you'll wait for me? However long it takes. She kissed him, desperate and fierce. I don't deserve you. Yeah, you do. The hearing lasted 6 hours. Prosecutors presented evidence of Evelyn's perjury, the fake recordings, the metadata, her confession. Cross presented evidence of Damien's crimes, the payments to Reed, the encrypted messages, the pattern of manipulation and abuse. Witnesses testified. Experts analyzed documents. Lawyers argued. And through it all, Judge Chen listened with an expression that gave away nothing. Finally, at 4 p.m, she spoke. This is one of the most complicated cases I've seen in 30 years on the bench. We have clear evidence of perjury committed by Ms. Drake. We also have clear evidence that Mr. Vale orchestrated witness tampering, bribery, and conspiracy. Both parties broke the law. Both parties need to be held accountable. Nathan held his breath. Nathan. Ms. Drake, Judge Chen continued, you lied to this court. That is inexcusable. However, I also recognize that you were motivated by a genuine belief that justice was being subverted. You were wrong to take matters into your own hands, but your actions were provoked by Mr. Vale's criminal behavior. She paused. Therefore, I'm sentencing you to 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and a $50,000 fine. You will also publicly apologize for misleading this court. Evelyn's knees buckled. Cross caught her. As for Mr. Vale, Judge Chen said, her voice hardening, based on the evidence of witness tampering, I'm adding 7 years to his original sentence. He will serve a minimum of 12 years in federal prison with no possibility of early release. The courtroom erupted. Porter was shouting objections. Reporters were scrambling for their phones. Linda Vasquez was smiling. Nathan pulled Evelyn into his arms, and she collapsed against him, sobbing. It's over, he whispered. It's really over. Outside the courthouse, the media swarmed. Evelyn gave a brief statement, reading from a prepared note. I want to apologize to the court and to everyone affected by my actions. I made a serious mistake, and I take full responsibility. I'm grateful for the opportunity to make amends, and I'm committed to using this experience to help others. She didn't take questions. They climbed into Carter's car and drove away while cameras flashed. In the back seat, Evelyn leaned against Nathan, exhausted. I can't believe I got probation, she said. You earned it, kind of. She laughed weakly. 12 years. Damien got 12 years. Good. He deserves more. He'll appeal. Let him. He's done. Evelyn was quiet for a moment, then she said, "I need to step down from the foundation." Nathan pulled back to look at her. What? Precise. Because my name is toxic now. Every article about me mentions the perjury. If I stay, it'll hurt the work we're doing. You built that foundation. It's yours. And I'll destroy it if I stay. People don't trust me anymore. I trust you. You're biased. Damn right I am. Evelyn smiled despite herself. I'll stay involved behind the scenes, but I need to let someone else lead. Nathan wanted to argue, but he understood. Sometimes the right thing meant stepping back. Okay, he said, but you're not disappearing. We need you. You'll have me, just not in the spotlight. The weeks that followed were strange. Evelyn quietly transitioned leadership of the foundation to a woman named Patricia Chen, no relation to the judge, who'd been working in nonprofit management for 20 years. Patricia was smart, passionate, and had no scandals attached to her name. The foundation thrived under her leadership. Evelyn threw herself into her community service hours, working at shelters and job training programs, doing the kind of hands-on work she'd never had time for when she was running ArcLight. She seemed lighter, freer. Nathan's business continued growing. He hired a small office staff, expanded into larger projects, and started getting calls from developers who'd heard about his work. Jamie turned 9 and announced he wanted to be an architect when he grew up. Why an architect? Nathan asked. Because you build things, but architects design them. That's cooler. Nathan couldn't argue with that logic. They settled into a rhythm that felt sustainable, real. And slowly, the weight of the past started to lift. One evening in early spring, Nathan came home to find Evelyn and Jamie building a blanket fort in the living room. "What's this?" he asked. "Fort night," Jamie announced. "We're watching movies in here." "Whose idea was this, Muck?" "Mine," Evelyn said, grinning, but Jamie improved the structural design. "I made it bigger," Jamie said proudly. Nathan laughed. "All right, what are we watching?" "Star Wars, the old ones." "Good choice." They crowded into the fort, blankets draped over chairs, pillows everywhere, string lights Evelyn had somehow found giving the whole thing a magical glow. It was cramped and ridiculous and perfect. Halfway through The Empire Strikes Back, Jamie fell asleep between them. Nathan and Evelyn looked at each other over his sleeping form. "This is nice," Evelyn whispered. "Yeah, it is. I never thought I'd have this. A family." "Neither did I." "We got lucky," Aunt Nathan smiled. "We got stubborn. There's a difference." Evelyn reached across Jamie, taking Nathan's hand. "I'm glad we were stubborn," she said. "Me too." They sat in the blanket fort, watching Luke Skywalker face Darth Vader, holding hands across their sleeping son, and Nathan realized something. Happiness wasn't about having a perfect life. It was about having people who stayed. Even when things got hard, even when the world tried to tear you apart, they'd stayed. And that made all the difference. The wedding was small. Just family and close friends in a park overlooking the mountains. Marcus was Nathan's best man. Carter walked Evelyn down the aisle since her own father had passed years ago. Jamie stood beside Nathan holding the rings, looking so serious and grown up it made Nathan's chest ache. Evelyn wore a simple white dress. Nathan wore the same suit he'd worn to their first date, now properly tailored. The ceremony was short. No elaborate vows, no big speeches, just two people promising to keep choosing each other. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Jamie made a gagging sound that made everyone laugh. Afterward, they had dinner at a local restaurant. Nothing fancy, just good food and people they loved. Jamie gave a toast that mostly consisted of demanding the promised dog. Marcus told embarrassing stories about Nathan from their early construction days. Carter said almost nothing but smiled the entire time. And Evelyn and Nathan sat together, hands intertwined, watching their families celebrate something that had seemed impossible a year ago. As the evening wound down and guests started leaving, Nathan found Evelyn standing outside looking at the stars. "You okay?" he asked. "More than okay." "No regrets?" "Not even one." She turned to him, her eyes bright. "This is everything I never knew I needed." "Me too. Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. Even when I gave you every reason to." Nathan pulled her close. You never gave me a reason to. Not a real one. They stood together under the stars, the noise of the restaurant fading behind them, and Nathan felt the last piece of his broken heart finally click into place. He'd spent so many years believing he was damaged, that happiness wasn't meant for people like him, but standing there with Evelyn in his arms, their son inside eating cake, their future stretching out bright and uncertain and beautiful, he finally understood. He'd never been broken, just waiting for the right person to see him whole. The dog arrived 3 months after the wedding, a rescue from the shelter where Evelyn was doing her community service hours, a golden retriever mix with one floppy ear and a tail that never stopped wagging. Jamie named him Murphy within 5 minutes of meeting him, and Nathan didn't even pretend to argue. He's huge, Nathan said, watching the dog bound around their small backyard. You said big dog only, Evelyn reminded him, grinning. I was thinking medium large. This is a horse. Well, Jamie was rolling in the grass with Murphy, laughing so hard he could barely breathe. The sound filled the yard, bright and unrestrained, and Nathan felt something settle deep in his chest. This was what healing looked like. Not the absence of scars, but the presence of joy loud enough to drown out the pain. Evelyn moved beside him, sliding her hand into his. We're really doing this, aren't we? Doing what? The whole thing. Marriage, family, dog in the yard, the life we never thought we'd have. Nathan squeezed her hand. Yeah, we really are. It's terrifying. Little bit. But good terrifying. Like jumping off a cliff and realizing you can fly. Nathan smiled. That's the most ridiculous thing you've ever said. I'm working on being less corporate. How am I doing? Terrible, but I love you anyway. Evelyn laughed and Nathan pulled her close, kissing the top of her head while Jamie and Murphy tumbled across the lawn like two kids who'd never known anything but safety. But the thing about safety, Nathan was learning, was that it wasn't permanent. It was something you had to choose every day, something you had to fight for, rebuild, protect. And sometimes, just when you thought you'd finally found solid ground, the earth shifted beneath your feet. The call came on a Tuesday morning in late fall. Nathan was at a job site in Aurora reviewing blueprints with his crew when his phone rang. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him answer. Mr. Cole? A man's voice, formal and clipped. Yeah. This is Warden Phillips from Federal Correctional Institution, Englewood. I'm calling about Damian Vale. Nathan's blood went cold. What about him? What? Mr. Vale collapsed in the exercise yard this morning. He was transported to the hospital. He's currently in critical condition. Nathan couldn't speak. Mr. Cole, are you there? What happened? We're still investigating, but I wanted to notify you and Ms. Drake as parties connected to his case. The doctors are saying it was a heart attack. Massive. They're not optimistic about his recovery. Nathan's mind was racing. Is he going to die? It's possible. I'll keep you updated. Boing. The line went dead. Nathan stood there, phone still pressed to his ear, trying to process what he'd just heard. Damian Vale, the man who'd terrorized them, who'd orchestrated a kidnapping, who'd tried to destroy everything Nathan loved, might be dying. And Nathan didn't know how to feel about it. He called Evelyn immediately. She answered on the first ring. Hey, I was just about to... Damian's in the hospital. Heart attack. They don't think he's going to make it. Silence. Then Evelyn said very quietly, Are you serious? The warden just called. Is he... is it real or is this some kind of trick? I don't know, but the warden sounded genuine. Evelyn was quiet for so long, Nathan thought the call had dropped. Evelyn? I don't know what to feel, she said finally. Part of me wants him to suffer. Part of me just wants it to be over. And part of me feels guilty for wanting any of it. I know, me too. Should we go to the hospital, boss? Nathan hesitated. Do you want to? No, but maybe we should, for closure or something. Closure's overrated. Maybe, but I think I need to see it, to know it's real. Nathan understood. All right, I'll pick you up in 20 minutes. Bunk. The hospital was a sprawling complex on the east side of Denver, all glass and steel and sterile white walls. Nathan and Evelyn walked through the main entrance together, neither of them speaking, both of them bracing for whatever waited inside. The warden met them in the lobby, a tall man in his 60s with a military bearing and tired eyes. "Ms. Drake, Mr. Cole, thank you for coming." "How is he?" Evelyn asked. "Alive. Barely. He had a second heart attack in the ambulance. The doctors managed to stabilize him, but he's not conscious. They're saying even if he survives, there will likely be brain damage." Nathan felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. "Can we see him?" "He's in the ICU. I'll take you up." Tuh. They followed the warden through a maze of hallways and elevators, the antiseptic smell making Nathan's stomach turn. When they finally reached the ICU, a doctor was waiting, a young woman with dark circles under her eyes and a clipboard clutched to her chest. "Family?" she asked. "Connected to his case," the warden explained. The doctor nodded. "He's in room 4, but I need to warn you, he doesn't look good. The damage was extensive." Evelyn took a deep breath. "We understand." The doctor led them to a room at the end of the hall. Through the glass window, Nathan could see Damien Vale lying in a hospital bed, tubes and wires running from his body to machines that beeped and hissed. He looked small, fragile, nothing like the man who'd once commanded boardrooms and destroyed lives with a signature. Evelyn stopped at the window, her hand pressed against the glass. "He can't hurt us anymore," she whispered. "No, can't. So why don't I feel better?" Nathan didn't have an answer. They stood there for a long time, watching machines keep a monster alive, and Nathan realized something. Damien Vale dying wouldn't erase what he'd done. It wouldn't give them back the years of fear and pain. It wouldn't undo Jamie's nightmares or Evelyn's scars. Closure wasn't something that happened to you. It was something you chose. "Let's go," Nathan said quietly. Evelyn looked at him. "You don't want to stay?" Say, "No, I don't need to see this, and neither do you. But he's already gone, Evelyn. Whether he dies today or in 10 years, he's gone from our lives. We don't owe him our time, not anymore." Evelyn stared through the glass for another moment, then she nodded. "You're right. Let's go home." They walked out of the hospital together, leaving Damien Vale behind, not with satisfaction or triumph, but with the quiet understanding that some chapters didn't need a dramatic ending. They just needed to close. 3 days later, the warden called again. Damien Vale had died without regaining consciousness. Nathan told Evelyn over dinner. Jamie was at a friend's house, so it was just the two of them at the kitchen table with takeout. Neither of them was eating. "How do you feel?" Nathan asked. Evelyn thought about it. "Empty, like I should feel something big. Relief, or sadness, or anger. But I just feel nothing." Maybe that's what closure actually is. Not feeling everything at once, just feeling done. "Yeah, maybe." Evelyn pushed her food around her plate. "Do you think we're bad people for not mourning him?" "No, I think we're human. He hurt us. He tried to destroy us. We don't have to pretend we're sad he's gone." My therapist would probably say I should process this or something. "Process it however you need to, but don't feel guilty for moving on." Evelyn smiled faintly. "When did you get so wise?" "I'm not wise, I'm just tired of letting dead men haunt us." They finished dinner in comfortable silence. And when Jamie came home an hour later, full of stories about video games and pizza, neither of them mentioned Damien at all, because he didn't deserve space in their home anymore, not even in memory. The seasons changed. Winter came to Denver with heavy snow and cold that bit through even the thickest jacket. Nathan's business slowed during the harsh months, but he used the time to plan new projects, hire another crew, build something sustainable. Evelyn finished her community service hours and quietly started a scholarship fund for kids from low-income families who wanted to study technology. She didn't put her name on it, didn't do press releases, just funded it and let it do good. Jamie thrived. His nightmares stopped almost entirely. He made the honor roll at school. He joined the soccer team and actually scored a goal, which he talked about for 3 weeks straight. And slowly, painfully, beautifully, they became a normal family, or as normal as any family could be with their history. They had movie nights and arguments about whose turn it was to walk Murphy. They went to Jamie's soccer games and parent-teacher conferences. They burned dinner and laughed about it. They had hard conversations about money and stress and the future. They were messy and imperfect and real. And Nathan loved every second of it. One evening in early spring, almost 2 years after they'd first met, Nathan came home to find Evelyn and Jamie in the garage with blueprints spread across his workbench. "What's this?" he asked. Jamie looked up, grinning. "We're designing a treehouse." "A treehouse? Us, for the backyard. Evelyn said you could help us build it." Nathan looked at Evelyn, who was trying not to smile. "Did she now?" "I may have volunteered your expertise," Evelyn admitted. "But look at these plans. Jamie designed them himself." Nathan studied the blueprints, surprisingly detailed for a 9-year-old, with measurements and structural notes and even a small deck. "This is actually pretty good," Nathan said. Jamie beamed. "So we can build it?" "We'll need to reinforce the support beams, and the ladder needs to be wider. But yeah, we can build it." Jamie whooped and ran to tell Murphy, who was sleeping in the corner and had no idea what was happening. Evelyn moved beside Nathan, looking at the plans. He worked on this for 3 days, measured the tree, researched load-bearing weights, everything. "He's going to be a better architect than I am a builder." "Probably, but you'll teach him anyway." Nathan smiled. "Yeah, I will." They started building the following weekend. Nathan handled the heavy construction while Jamie measured and cut smaller pieces under careful supervision. Evelyn provided snacks and unsolicited design advice that was actually helpful. It took 6 weekends to finish. By the end, they had a treehouse with a rope ladder, a small deck, and windows that Jamie insisted on decorating with drawings of dinosaurs. The first night it was finished, Jamie insisted on sleeping in it. "It's 40 degrees outside," Nathan argued. "I have a sleeping bag." "And bears. We definitely have bears." "Dad, we don't have bears." "You don't know that." Evelyn intervened. "How about a compromise? You can sleep out there for a few hours and then come inside before it gets too cold." Jamie considered this. Deal. So they let him. Nathan and Evelyn sat on the back porch with blankets and hot chocolate, watching their son's flashlight bob around inside the treehouse. "He's so happy," Evelyn said softly. "He is. We did that. Gave him that. We got lucky." "No." Evelyn turned to him. "We fought for it. There's a difference." Nathan pulled her close. "How are you doing? Really?" "Better. The nightmares are mostly gone. The guilt's still there sometimes, but quieter." "Guilt about what?" "The perjury, lying to the court. Sometimes I wake up wondering if I'm actually a good person or if I just got lucky with a sympathetic judge. You're a good person who made a hard choice in an impossible situation. You always say that, because it's true." Evelyn was quiet for a moment. "I think about what my life would have been if we hadn't met. Still running Arclight, still fighting Damien, still alone. It's like I was living in black and white, and you and Jamie brought color. That's the second ridiculous metaphor you've used. You're getting worse at this." She laughed. "I know, but it's true." Nathan kissed her temple. "For what it's worth, you brought color to us too." Was it? What? They sat together as the temperature dropped and stars appeared overhead. Eventually, Jamie climbed down from the treehouse, declared it the best night ever, and went inside to warm up. The three of them curled up on the couch, with Murphy sprawled across their feet, and Nathan thought about all the moments that had led them here. The blind date that shouldn't have worked, the kidnapping that nearly destroyed them, the legal battles and lies and desperate choices. All of it somehow had brought them to this, a family, imperfect and scarred and absolutely worth fighting for. Summer came, and with it, Jamie's 10th birthday. They threw a party at the park, bigger than last year with half his class and kids from the soccer team. Nathan grilled burgers while Evelyn organized games, and Marcus showed up with a ridiculously expensive remote control car that Jamie immediately crashed into a tree. $50 says he breaks it in a week, Marcus said. "You don't bet against your own gift," Nathan replied. "Sure I do. Kid's got my talent for destruction." Nathan laughed, flipping burgers while watching his son race around with his friends. Jamie had grown so much in the past 2 years. Taller, more confident, quicker to laugh, and slower to fear. He was going to be okay. They all were. Later, as the party wound down and parents started collecting their kids, Jamie ran over to Nathan and Evelyn. "Best birthday ever," he announced. "Better than last year?" Evelyn asked. "Way better. Last year I was still kind of scared of stuff. This year I'm not." Nathan's chest tightened. "What changed?" Jamie shrugged. "I don't know. I just figured out that bad things can happen, but good things happen too. And the good things are better." It was such a simple statement, such a kid's understanding of trauma and recovery, but it hit Nathan harder than any therapy session or legal victory ever had. Because Jamie was right. Bad things had happened, terrible things, things that should have broken them. But they'd also found each other, built a family, created something beautiful out of the wreckage, and that was worth more than all the pain that came before. "You're a smart kid," Nathan said, pulling Jamie into a hug. "I know. Can I have cake now?" "Yeah, buddy, you can have cake." Tips. That night, after Jamie was asleep and the house was quiet, Nathan and Evelyn sat on the back porch with glasses of wine. "I've been thinking," Evelyn said, "about expanding the scholarship fund, turning it into something bigger, maybe a full program that helps kids not just pay for college, but prepare for it. Tutoring, mentorship, career guidance." "That's ambitious." "I know, but I have the resources and the time, and I want to do something that matters." Nathan smiled. "You already do things that matter. I want to do more. I spent 10 years building a company that made me rich, but didn't help anyone. I want the next 10 years to be different." "Then do it. I'll help however I can." Evelyn looked at him, her eyes bright. "You mean that?" "Of course. We're a team." "A team." Evelyn smiled. "I like that." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars, and Nathan felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not just happiness, but peace. The kind that came from knowing you were exactly where you were supposed to be. "Nathan?" Evelyn said after a while. "Yeah?" "Thank you." "For what?" "For not giving up on me. For seeing past the mess and the mistakes and the baggage. For choosing me even when it would have been easier to walk away." Nathan took her hand. "You're worth choosing every single day." Evelyn's eyes filled with tears. "I love you. I love you too." They sat together under the stars, holding hands. And Nathan thought about how far they'd come. From that rainy night in an upscale cafe to this moment on a back porch in a modest house with a dog snoring inside and a kid sleeping safely upstairs. It hadn't been easy. It hadn't been smooth. But it had been worth it. Every single second. Check. A year later, Nathan stood in the backyard of a house he'd just finished building. It was part of a new development his company was working on. Affordable homes for families who'd been priced out of Denver's housing market. The project was Evelyn's idea. Her foundation funded it, and Nathan's company built it. They were calling it Second Chances, which Jamie had said was cheesy but also kind of perfect. This particular house was going to a single mother with 3 kids. She'd been living in a cramped apartment, working 2 jobs, barely scraping by. Now she'd have a place of her own, a backyard for her kids, space to breathe. Nathan walked through the empty rooms one last time, checking details, making sure everything was right. When he came back outside, Evelyn was waiting with Jamie and Murphy. "Looks good," Evelyn said. "It's a good house. She's going to love it." Jamie was running around the yard with Murphy, already planning where a treehouse could go. "He wants to build her kids a treehouse," Evelyn said. "Of course he does. Are you going to say yes?" Nathan smiled. "Probably." They stood together, watching the sun set over the mountains, and Nathan thought about all the houses he'd built over the years. But this one felt different. This one wasn't just wood and nails and drywall. It was hope. It was a future. It was proof that broken things could be made whole again. Just like him. Just like Evelyn. Just like their family. "You know what I realized?" Nathan said. "What?" "That night we met, the blind date. I was so angry when I walked in and saw you. I thought it was some cosmic joke, that the universe was laughing at me. message. And now I think it was the best thing that ever happened to me. All of it. The chaos and the fear and the fighting, because it brought us here. Evelyn leaned against him. You're getting sentimental in your old age. I'm 34. Ancient. Nathan laughed, pulling her close. I mean it, though. I spent so many years believing I was just surviving, getting through each day, doing what I had to do to keep Jamie safe and the bills paid. But I wasn't living. Not really. And now? Now I'm living because of you. Evelyn turned to face him, her hands on his chest. You gave me the same thing, a reason to stop running, a reason to believe in something other than success and survival. We saved each other. Yeah, we did. Jamie called from across the yard. Dad, can we go get ice cream? It's 6 o'clock. So? Nathan looked at Evelyn, who was grinning. Your call. Ice cream sounds perfect. They loaded into the car, Murphy in the back with Jamie, both of them hanging their heads out the window, and drove to the ice cream shop near their house. It was crowded with families and kids celebrating the end of the school year. They stood in line, ordered too much ice cream, and sat at a picnic table outside while Murphy begged shamelessly for bites. This is nice, Jamie said, chocolate ice cream smeared across his face. Yeah, it is, Nathan agreed. Evelyn was quiet, just watching them both with a soft smile. What? Nathan asked. Nothing. Just thinking about how different my life is now. Better different? The best different. Well, they finished their ice cream as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. People walked past, living their own lives, fighting their own battles, searching for their own moments of peace. And Nathan realized that was the thing about happiness. It wasn't a destination. It wasn't something you achieved and then kept forever. It was a choice you made every day, to show up, to fight, to love even when it was hard. He'd made that choice when he walked into that cafe 2 years ago, even though he'd been terrified. He'd made it again when he refused to let Damien destroy them. He'd make it again tomorrow, and the day after, and every day for the rest of his life. Because Evelyn was worth it. Jamie was worth it. This messy, imperfect, beautiful life they'd built was worth it. Later that night, after Jamie was in bed and Murphy was sprawled across the living room floor, Nathan found Evelyn standing by the window, looking out at the city lights. What are you thinking about? He asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. Everything. Nothing. How lucky we are. Luck had nothing to do with it. Maybe not, but I'm grateful anyway. Nathan kissed her shoulder. Me too. They stood together in the quiet house, holding each other, and Nathan thought about all the things he'd learned over the past 2 years. That love wasn't about finding someone perfect. It was about finding someone who made you want to be better. That family wasn't just blood. It was the people who stayed when things got hard. That healing wasn't linear. Some days were good. Some days the past came roaring back. But you kept going anyway. That second chances were real, rare and precious and worth fighting for. That sometimes the thing you thought would destroy you was actually the thing that saved you. Evelyn turned in his arms, looking up at him with eyes that had seen too much pain, but had learned to hope anyway. I'm glad it was you, she said quietly. What? That night, the blind date. I'm glad it was you sitting across from me. Nathan smiled. Even though I'm just a construction worker with a beat-up truck? Especially because of that. You're real, and I'd spent so long surrounded by people who weren't. You're pretty real yourself. Took me a while to get here. Same. They kissed, slow and sweet, and Nathan felt the last piece of doubt fade away. This was it. This was the life he was supposed to have. Not perfect, not easy, but his, and that made it perfect enough. Years from now, when people asked Nathan how he and Evelyn met, he'd tell them about the blind date, the rainy cafe, the shock of seeing her sitting by the window. But he wouldn't tell them about the fear, the kidnapping, the legal battles and lies and desperate choices. Those parts were theirs, private scars that had healed into something stronger. What he'd tell them was simpler, that sometimes life surprised you, that the thing you thought was a disaster turned out to be a gift. that the person you least expected became the one you couldn't live without. That love wasn't about grand gestures or perfect moments. It was about showing up every day and choosing each other even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. That broken people could build whole lives if they were brave enough to try. And that second chances, real ones, weren't just possible. They were worth everything. Nathan looked at the woman in his arms, the son sleeping upstairs, the dog snoring on the floor, the home they'd built from nothing. And he smiled, because the thing about surviving hell was that it taught you to appreciate heaven. And this, right here, right now, was as close to heaven as Nathan needed to get. Imperfect, messy, and absolutely, completely his.